Welcome to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Here's the 3-2 on Trout. Swings at this one, lifts it high in the air, hits it well out into right center field. It's out by the wall, and that ball is Trout here.
The 0-1. High drive, deep left field. It is back, and it is gone. Almost an instant replay of last night's bomb. Wong does it again, and it's 2-0 Red Sox.
Bellinger drives one in the air, deep right center. This ball has got a chance, and it is gone. Cody Bellinger, a long drive right near the swimming pool in right center field. Towering blast. Cubs lead 3-2.
Hawkins has it knocked away by Lowry. It's loose. The Sixers steal the ball. Lowry knocked it away at midcourt. And now the Sixers can take the lead and beat for 3 from out top. It's good. He nails a triple. And the Sixers go up 93-91. 5 in a row by Embiid.
Push to White. Thought about it now. Deep wing left 3. Ripped it. Wow, that is a long-range bomb by Kobe White.
And the Chicago Bulls stay alive on a career night from Kobe White. 131-116 the final.
Good morning. Welcome into Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590 ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube as well here at the Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill on the Pillar Exterior stage. We got a great Thursday for you.
Thirst trap kind of Thursday.
You know, it's a lovely day outside.
On a perfect day.
Oh, I
know that I can count on you.
I was going to go like Bill Withers, like, a lovely day.
I like Bill Withers, too.
Yeah.
I went a little new edition.
That's fine.
It's kind of old edition, kind of withered up edition.
Well, Bill Withered Up edition, right?
Oh, creative.
See what I did there?
Very, very quick on your floor shine.
Go.
Yeah, that used to be my favorite song.
Really?
Oh, yeah. When I get in my feels in high school over this certain girl that was my first year girlfriend too, but she was in high school back at Northwest when I was in college.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm gonna send you a song. Hey man,
kids these days will never understand the power of a good like
mixtape.
It was mixed CDs for me.
I was gonna say back in the day, was it a cassette?
Oh, how about when your world changed when they had like auto reverse and it would flip sides without you having to do it?
Oh man, you didn't have to.
It would just like
pop that thing out. You're like, you know what? So my sweet spot was like, okay, you had those little Walkman CD players. Mm-hmm. And they had like the 3-second skip protection, and you're like, oh my God. They come out with 10-second skip protection, and you were balling.
Yeah. I remember.
Every once in a while, I still have like a little PTSD with the skips because I'll be riding in the car or whatever, and I'll hit one of those spots where satellite radio or something gets cut out for a second. Mm-hmm. I was like, did my CD just skip?
Yeah.
It's right. Like, no, it did not. You don't even have a CD player in this car.
Hey, listen, on April 18th, I could go to my mom's house, and in the basement, she's going to have a dual cassette CD player with the detachable speakers.
Oh, yeah.
And there are still 2 tapes in there. One of them is mine. If I'm lying, I'm dying.
Isn't that the best part about your parents living in the same house for like
I
however long?
want the tape. I just don't know what to play it on.
You have to take the whole thing with you.
Yeah. You know? So yeah, can you stand the rain? So I haven't had.
Have you ever seen The Rain? Creedence Clearwater? CCR? No.
I know how that goes. Say that again. Or
have you ever seen?
Oh yeah. That's usually the backdrop in a lot of cheesy movies.
Yeah, a little bit.
So that's something I would hear in like Sweet Home Alabama or something.
Probably.
Did you ever see that movie?
Yeah, low-key kind of like it.
Yeah. I remember I mixed that dude up with Matthew McConaughey for like 6 years.
Oh, yeah. Josh something.
Hader?
No.
Hamilton?
Nope.
Perry?
Still no.
Yeah.
Josh. I'm going to look it up because it's going to bother me.
I'm out of Josh's.
McCown?
Josh Humble?
Josh Dotzler?
Josh Dotzler? Shane, I need another Josh.
Who, by the way?
Eskew?
I don't know Josh Eskew.
He used to play center.
Josh Jacobs?
Josh Jacobs?
Ooh, that's a good one.
I hope so for young Jacob Padilla's sake. Because you invested 15.
Josh Lucas.
Josh Ludke?
No, different guy. Lucas.
Ludke.
He's
What am I missing?
he's the main character in that movie.
I'm gonna invite Josh to Caleb's graduation. Is that weird?
Lukey?
Yeah.
No, do whatever you want, man.
I like Josh. Caleb likes Josh. They have unusual embraces at half court.
Like, what up? Give him a little dap it up a little bit.
Dude, it's kind of a long one, and neither one of them is touchy-feely, so it's always fun to watch, right?
That's
it's
why, I was honored when Caleb dapped me up after a football game.
Oh yeah,
because I know he's not like a hugger, and I was like, oh,
this
nice.
dong last night. Let's laying on the couch in the dark, not in his room, like in the big part.
Yeah, like in the TV room.
Yeah, and I'm like, what are you doing? I'm just trying to decide what I want to watch on television. Why are you doing it out here? I don't know. I'm sick of waiting for my Fire Stick to update. I've been waiting for like 2 weeks.
What?
And immediately, I almost went to anger. Like, the emojis thing and the little stack blows.
Yeah.
Because he's so, I go back to the Coach Felder story. Like, he's so impatient.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, well, you turn it on and it's like uploading. And so I'm like, look, man.
I don't think that's supposed to take 2 weeks.
He starts it over if it takes more than 20 seconds. It literally took me 9 minutes.
Bro.
9 minutes. I said, look, man.
Caleb, I need
so
you
I
to do
told
better.
him to come in here. I said, just watch this. Just patience, right? But it's like, even like if a game's uploading or he's waiting for a test to download, he'll go do something else. Like, and that's fine. I get it. A lot of people are have really short attention spans, but
I wonder where he gets that from.
Dude, I sat and waited 8 minutes. I laid on that dude's carpet. I laid on his floor last night, just seeing if I was gonna lose my mind or he's just a ding dong. And it turns out it's the latter. Like, how when you're waiting for something to upload on your smart TVs, just give it after the first 3 minutes, it goes fast.
Yeah, you just gotta wait it out.
But you couldn't wait 3 minutes.
Nothing.
You started over every time.
No technology that exists in the world right now, unless it's broken,
I said, "Oh Lord,
is going to take very long."
We're in trouble. I said, "Who's gonna want to?" I said, "Who's living with you? Like, we figure that out yet?" He's like, "Donovan Jones, baby." I was like, "Oh, cool. Somebody with some sense."
That's fine.
At least there's one reasonable head.
No, and I'm a huge. You
love Donovan.
Oh yeah. That was like,
you're like, good to go.
Yep, I know his dad will beat him too. So
speaking,
we're in business.
Speaking of technology,
hey man, why does Donnie have that black eye? I don't know, man. D-Rock came down and had to have some speaks.
I'm driving in this morning, right, and it's rainy and whatever, and I just keep thinking to myself, in the year 2024 of our Lord,
yes,
we can't figure out a better way to paint visible lines on the road.
Oh, than to have people actually out there?
Or to be able to see them when it's raining.
Oh, I don't know. I'm sure somebody's in the lab making some iridescent paint or something.
I'm just saying.
Why can't they do that stuff like luminol?
The amount of technology that I have in my phone could run the spaceship.
They could find dried blood from like 7 years ago, but they can't find lines you can see.
That's what I mean. Like, what?
I don't know, Ravi. Did you almost swerve? It's better than the guys that
I can't see
pull their trucks up on the island and walk the opposite way of traffic, assuming you'll move because they're painting the street. I'm like, oh shoot, man, I better get out of the way.
You better.
Can you imagine the stones?
Oh, no.
I'm terrified.
I get anxiety
just driving by them.
Yeah, just watching them.
Yeah,
not a fan.
Some dudes on my TikTok that does the not scaffolding. He does health and safety inspections for these big monstrosities.
Yeah.
This dude found a little itty bitty missing screw on some contraption, but he's 300 and some odd feet in the air. I'm like,
that's not going to go well.
It gave me I may be able to find. It gave me the willies just watching it. I'm like, how much could I get over that for a certain amount of money?
I could not, unless I'm heavily medicated, in which case I'm probably not going to be very good at that job anymore.
So I was just thinking, because I was still mad at you yesterday for your Colorado take and losing. You're like, oh, it's still nonsense. I mean, maybe you need to frame it different than it landed yesterday, but you literally said.
No, I think I said what I meant.
You rather lose to Colorado
than operate
than not run your program correctly.
100%.
You can always fix running your program.
I don't
you
think
can't go back. So I was
I
like,
know. Hold on.
Uh-oh.
We're gonna
Jay, look at
we're gonna
Musclehead's mad at me.
we're gonna start here today apparently because
Musclehead's mad at me.
you're choosing violence this morning. So no, you can't always fix how you run your program because we saw Nebraska do it poorly for 2 decades.
No, see, that's okay. Yes and no. But you if you're capable.
But that's what I mean. I'd rather have a guy that's capable in Matt Rule than I don't know what Colorado's record is going to be this year. I think it's going to be bad because I think that place is a hot dumpster fire, right? It's just wet garbage all over the place. You know, like how you like roll your garbage can out and it's raining and then they leave it open and they didn't get everything out of there and it's just disgusting. That's what Colorado looks like from here.
Wow.
Okay. But I'm not ruling. I don't know what that's going to look like in wins and losses, right? I have no idea. But I would rather take an L to Colorado this year than ever have that guy in charge of my football program.
I won't I won't fist fight on top of that hill, but I do think
I will fist fight on top of that hill.
I'm just not
I'll stand on business
to openly negotiate a willingness to lose.
It's not a willingness.
It just seems yucky.
It's not a
kind of
willingness.
like wet garbage.
Yeah, kind of like Colorado's entire program.
Like it takes an extraordinary scenario where you could pose it to me.
I think you just don't like the way I'm saying it.
I don't like conceding a loss.
Because no, it's not conceding.
It is.
No, it's not. It's not. It's not saying, hey, I will trade you this L in exchange for this.
No, that's what you said.
No.
You said I would rather lose.
Rather and trading are not the same thing.
Now we got the semantics posed back. I don't want to be in. It's very uncomfortable for me, and maybe it's because of my long-standing relationships with lawyers to negotiate L's.
I mean, we've both been divorced. That's all. That's all divorce is negotiating an L.
I don't like conceding competition.
Let me put it to you this way, okay? If you're sending your kid to a program or you're going to
is this hypothetical?
Yeah. Or you're
going hypothetically, if you have a kid going to college.
Yeah, if you have a kid that's going to play Division I football somewhere, I don't know, wherever. Okay. I mean, this is very, it's a similar hypothetical for both.
Shout out my North Nebraska Wesleyan.
That's right, a baller.
Actually, she got a chance.
My point is, if you're a father in that situation, if you're a coach in that situation, you would rather operate the same way and let the wins and losses fall where they may. Then
I get no. I mean, I'm not morally bankrupt, but what I would say is a one time. We're just talking about a one-time scenario, because that's where you may lose.
You get mad. You didn't like the fact that I made it so specific to Colorado, but that's what we're comparing is the way Colorado operates versus the way Nebraska operates. I will take
and I told you too, like along those lines. You see, like these interviews that he kind of does nationally.
Yeah, people
are constantly trying to goad him into saying something negative about Deion. He's not gonna take the bait.
No, that's fine. That's why I'm here. You remember, on Key and Peele, like Barack Obama's anger translator?
You're what?
I'm Matt Rule's Colorado translator.
You're what?
Okay, I would rather take my chances with the way Matt Rule is going to operate his program than the way that Deion Sanders is going to operate his program. Is that fair?
Sure.
Okay. So we start there. And if that says, hey, I have to take this, I'm going to take it this way. And if that means we end up losing to Colorado, one game to Colorado or whoever else for that matter, I'm not making the trade for the way they operate just to get that win. Like, I think maybe if you reframe it that way, it's like, I'm not going to trade a win to be morally bankrupt or to be whatever you think Deion is. Obviously, I don't.
And I'm not saying he is. I'm saying what I would negotiate making me moral. I'm not talking about his morals. I'm talking. I
think his priorities are out of.
I don't know him like that.
I don't either. But when people tell you who they are, believe them. Like he's told us who he is quite a bit. I'm not gonna. Like he's gone out of his way to tell us his priorities.
Wow, way too much salt.
And I'm not in on that guy. I'm 100% out.
That's okay.
And I would rather take my chances with whatever the record looks like with Matt Rule than I would be like, oh, yeah, you could guarantee me a certain number of wins with Deion and be like, no, I'm good. I'll pass.
I guess at the end of the day, because you kind of I feel like you took my clip that I was gonna put in the chamber when you said if you're sending your kid to, because then I had the conversation I just had yesterday at lunch, right?
Yeah.
I just had to. I
You
had
had to reframe how you were thinking about it.
I'm like, man, if you have a loved one of mine for X amount of time, how does that make me feel? Like that's the trump card, right? Because
Say that again.
if you're going to there's something you care about.
Mhm.
Hey, take one of your dogs, for instance. You love your pets.
Yep.
You're going to heavily scrutinize where you're going to leave your pups
100%.
for an extended
I don't
period
leave
of
them with
time.
almost anybody.
Right. So that would be.
But that's kind
the
of my
equivalent.
point.
No, I know. That's what was disarming.
Yeah.
Because when you said that, it's like, yeah.
Like you wouldn't want to send your kid to go play for Deion.
I don't think, not on.
From what you know, from what he's
Yeah.
told us,
From all
about who he is.
If I'm just context clues, deductive reasoning.
Yeah.
You're 100% right.
Because that's a dude, and this is why, because I didn't really have any strong feelings about Deion before he got to Colorado. Because I didn't
either.
We didn't
right?
see,
Isn't that weird?
We
Like
didn't
we
see
talked
this
about
much
this
of him.
openly. I was like,
we didn't see this much of him at Jackson State, right? He's been very upfront since he got to Colorado, and
you think the Netflix series didn't do him any favors? I was going to say flavors. Yeah,
probably didn't do him any flavors either.
You got jokes.
I don't think anything he does publicly does him any favors because I don't think he's a good person.
Now, that is such a strong. We don't know that.
When people tell you who they are, believe
But
them.
he's not telling you he's a bad person. Fundamentally,
he's telling me what he's about, and I think
he's not robbing. But what's he doing?
Listen, there's a spectrum of bad people, right?
Okay.
Not like you don't.
So it's not Gacy.
You don't have to be a serial killer to be a bad dude.
Hey, what do you got against serial killers?
Not a fan. Out on serial killers. Is that a hot take? Maybe it is for DB. He's like, well, I don't know. I think they're, I think some of their methods are pretty interesting.
Shay, do you see his big old brush that he's just put me in this corner?
I mean, what's up, girl? You need.
This is so wrong. But do you know what I immediately just thought of?
What?
Greg Doyle. Isn't that awful?
We'll get to Greg Doyle. Don't worry.
And I
used to like him. He's gotten weird.
No, see, okay, you got to
no,
stop.
not just this.
Hey,
he's gotten weird.
You got to stop.
He's gotten weird.
You got to stop.
I don't actually.
Like one or two things happens, and you're just
and I'm
like
out.
all in or all out.
Yeah.
You can't slow down.
I mean, I'm 36. I've operated this way for a while. It seemed to work out for me.
Dude, just emotional. Like we got to get you some buoys. We got to balance you out.
Some buoys.
So Greg Doyle
like
has
some David buoys.
Does an article you don't like.
Or
You're out, or he's
been weird for a couple years.
Kind of icky with Caitlin Clark, and you're like, I'm out.
Yeah. Listen, the Caitlin Clark thing isn't the tipping point.
He said, listen.
But it's kind of like Deion, right? There's a body of evidence where he starts getting weird on me for Doyle or just being icky in Deion's case. And then something happens or he's just pushing me over the edge. Like, yeah, I'm good here. Wash my hands of this human being. I'm out. Right? Like I don't need to operate with people that I'm not vibing with.
People love the long shots.
Hey. I gotta stop. See, I almost made a love reference. It's not funny, but it was awkward. And then she turned the page almost seamlessly without saying a word. It was the look.
Yeah. No, she looked at him like, are you out of your mind?
So the cool thing about her, and I know for the last 3 months, it sounds like I really like Caitlin Clark. She just doesn't make me mad.
Okay.
How she does
other people with the antics and whatever.
No, it doesn't.
No, I don't either.
It doesn't bother me. And so for her age, for her ability to process that, and she's not going to make a big deal about it. No. Everybody else will, which is perfect. Because her ability to process real time, you could tell she looked like a person with how she kind of gave him the long look where she was thinking, do I go here with this dude or nah, I'm gonna let that ride. right? Just
It seemed like she processed in real time. I don't have to say anything. The internet will take care of it for me.
no. So okay, that's awful advanced. That's quick, but okay, so maybe. But do you know what I thought?
What?
I thought she thought to herself, that doesn't even deserve a response.
Maybe
Like-
maybe I'm going to galaxy brain on it,
Because
or maybe I'm playing the results, right? Because the internet did take care of it.
jeez, and now his peers are letting old.
I mean, it's a bad look. I don't know that it was malicious, but it's a bad look.
Yeah, we may have to reset that for context.
We will. I want to finish this Deion point though, real quick, because I don't understand how you can see everything that he does.
Me personally, or
Just
people?
anybody.
Oh, and
people.
say, hey, send my kid there.
Because we talked about this off air yesterday, because we ran out of time on the show like we often do. And my point was the way that he treats people on camera. First of all, you ever been out with one of those couples that fights in public, like while you're at dinner? Or they like kind of get into, like, they kind of like bicker a little bit?
Probably
like not like fight, but bicker.
Yeah, the first time around.
Yeah. 99 times out of 100, it's worse at home, right? Whatever they do in public, it's usually worse at home.
Yeah, I'm with you.
So I'm going on the assumption that whatever I see from Deion on camera, it's going to be worse off camera.
Strong take, but I can't.
You can see where the logic gets me there, right?
Oh yeah.
Like if you're willing to say those things on camera, usually people aren't better behind the scenes. Usually.
Yeah, but
if they're bad in front of the scenes, like they might be neutral.
But don't you know a lot of people? And again, this isn't in defense of. This is just the other side of the street.
Yeah,
where you're like, they're not really like that.
Sure,
you just have to get to know them.
But usually those people,
there are a lot of those.
Usually those but usually those people are not. Oh, that guy gives me the ick, or that guy is super cringe, or that guy seems like he doesn't care about people. It's usually.
Haven't you ever been around people that come across as pretty standoffish, but they're really not?
Yes, usually it's a little, but he's not standoffish. That's the difference.
No, it doesn't matter what it is.
No, it does though.
Hey, stop
it.
Stop it.
Okay.
One second.
Yeah.
Okay. We're talking about somebody giving you the perception of blank, but it's not this. That's your general premise.
Yes, but it's more specific than that.
Okay. Well, because you're making it specific to the person.
No.
Let's just talk about.
I think there's certain personality types that.
Okay. But there are some people that you meet, and it's like, oh, they're not really like that. You just have to get to know them.
The difference for me
that's
is
not a
the
hot take.
Type of, no, it's not. But it's the type of personality, because I think, and maybe I'm wrong here, in my experiences, the people that you meet that are better once you get to know them, all kind of fall into a certain category of maybe they come off a little gruff or a little standoffish, but they're not actively disparaging people in front of you.
So okay, now that's way too specific, because
I don't think it is.
That's fine.
I'm profiling
opinions make the world go round. But a lot of times, unless you're a sociopath or a narcissist, and he may be one of or both, sometimes you keep people at a distance, or you use a verbal strainer because of where you come from, and you have to sift through the rubbish quickly. It may not be an indictment of your character. Sometimes people are like that to save themselves the drama of trying to figure it out. They put it out there, whether it's really what they're about or not, and then they let you figure it out because they've either gotten lazy or tired, or they're over people.
Well, you can certainly sell me on the fact that he's lazy. I'll buy that. That's DB. I'm Ravi, Lulla. We'll have more Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next.
We will be back. 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 You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Welcome back here to Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We're here on the Pillar Exterior stage. Make sure you're watching us.
What's wrong with my camera? Speaking of
Twitter,
watching,
Facebook, and YouTube. I don't know.
is it just my big head?
I don't know. It looks like you're not. It looks like you're on your computer camera,
FaceTime and
not the external.
Shane,
camera.
is it Logitech or Loga?
Logitech?
Logitech.
I'm to the point now where I'm not listening to anything you say.
Because
Shane,
it's pronounced Logic.
Shane,
so Logitech.
Oh, okay,
Logic.
GIF guy.
Yeah, graphic image format. GIF.
Liquid one more time for those in the front. Thank you. Thank you a lot.
You're welcome. It is Logitech.
Okay.
So let me reset
I'm sorry,
here
are you talking?
Yeah, Damon and I are arguing about Deion.
No, we're not.
Well, a little bit we were. That's kind of what happened in the last segment.
I missed it. What happened?
Did you just like dissociate? You black out a little bit there?
Yeah, I had like.
So let me say this, and you'll like this. I acknowledge
there's not a 1 iota of a chance.
I acknowledge that your argument is plausible. That could be what's happening with Deion. I am not willing to forgive the damage what he does publicly does in order to find out
And you're consistent. That's okay.
whether or not privately he's a better person than
I mean,
that.
a year ago, you were mad at how you didn't like the exit meetings. And so,
No, and
so
I
I get it. That
yeah.
you're standing on that.
And I don't.
I do think it's cool, though. I wanna throw you a
Yeah.
little love muffin. Do you eat muffins? This one is full of love.
Not
I
frequently,
like
no.
the fact that that somebody that because I'm this is gonna cut deep. Somebody that comes across as genuinely not liking people, that would be you. Everything a lot of what you do, your mannerisms are very wall oriented.
Okay.
Colander, strainer type stuff. A little
I test
mean-spirited,
people.
if you will.
I test people.
Is that, in fact, who you are?
I think it's an element of who I am.
The answer to that, if you're being honest with yourself, is no. A very caring person for those that are in his circle.
Sure.
We'll go through we'll put up with a lot. We'll do a lot.
Mhm.
We'll eat a lot. I watched you beautifully orchestrate the behind the scenes of a funeral. Stressed to the gills. Mad, if you will. I don't like proving points like this, but
No,
what I'm telling
You're
you
fair.
is
It's fair.
sometimes it's very off-putting.
Sure.
But it's not who you are. It is absolutely not who you are.
That's fair.
So, like but I know why you do it. You do it because number one, there's past history.
Mhm.
Number two, you have some learned behaviors that allow you to deal with riffraff without even really having to deal with it. You can set it aside without it even really getting close to you based on your initial
Fair.
behaviors, correct?
Mhm.
What I'm saying is it could easily be something like that. But I do like the fact the business that you're standing on is extremely consistent. You harped on the exit interviews for every example that you gave of how he's treating young people. I like that because you're a self-proclaimed guy that says kids are a tough hang. That's the aura that you you put off. But man, it's crazy how you're resting on the laurels of, man, he treated people bad, so I don't like that guy. That is very contrarian to your personality.
Just because
That's the example, right?
That's fair. But just because I don't like kids doesn't mean I don't that I want other people to treat them poorly.
Just because he treats people poorly doesn't mean that he doesn't like them.
That's fine.
I'm just saying.
But if you like someone, don't treat them poorly. Like that's a bad attribute to have.
Have you ever watched people in relationships
No, I
that
have.
bring baggage? They bring their own Louis Vuitton?
I have. No, I have. That's a good reference there. I have, right? And it ruins relationships a lot of times. It can.
Yeah, it can.
If you don't handle your baggage
Mhm.
or find a way to deal with it in a healthy manner, it can ruin your relationship.
Yeah, because what I think people like that have to be able to do is surround themselves with people that can look in their blind spots for them.
And I don't know
And
that
I
he's
just
good
don't
at that.
think he can. I just don't think I just don't know if his.
He doesn't
staff
seem
is-
willing to
is-
do
is
that.
Built for that.
And so here's where it really comes down to me with Deion is he seems, from what we've seen publicly, again, never met him, don't know him. From what we've seen publicly, he seems to treat players in a very transactional manner.
Mhm.
For as much as I don't like kids, I did coach college basketball for almost 10 years.
It's just funny to hear
Right?
you say that.
I don't
Do you
like
me. Not really. I have a job to do.
I don't mind college kids as much, although they're still idiots a lot of the time. But when I say kids are a tough hang, it's usually small children because they're like crying and there's diapers. It's a whole thing, right? Like once you become
they're cutting into your finances.
Yeah, 100%. But like I'm not interested in spending my money on little like poop machines. That's not for me.
Oh man.
But
diaper genies are not overrated, by the way.
I would imagine they're not, but I'll never know. But like by the time you become a functional person, like, and college is borderline whether you're a functional person or not, but you're getting there. It's a lot easier for me to be around you. And I do understand the importance of that job because I did that job, right? Not at the same level, but I was in the business of taking care of mentoring, of building relationships with college kids. So I appreciate that on a very serious level. There's also a reason I got out of it because I didn't have the energy for it anymore, right? It was too much work and I didn't want to treat those kids poorly because I didn't have the energy for them. I didn't want to do that. I also like to do in radio more, and I knew I had to make a choice, right? So I wasn't going to half-ass it with kids when their lives mattered and come and try and do this too. So I was like, hey, I'm going to do the radio thing. I'm going to walk away from this because I didn't have the energy to give them what they deserved. What bothers me the most about Deion is he seems to treat those children in a very transactional manner.
Young people.
You're a child until you're like 25. I don't know what to tell you. Like,
okay.
You just, like, come on. I was an idiot until I was 30. Like, I acknowledge that fully, right? 25 is on the early end of when most people stop being stupid. But, like, he treats his kids, his players, whatever, in a super transactional manner. That bothers me. That's what I like about Coach Rule. Because at the end of the day, you can give him absolutely nothing in terms of value to his football program. And if you still try and achieve the things that he asks of you, he will love you forever. Like, hey, once I'm your coach or once you're my player, I'm your player forever. He said that, right? He said that 2 days ago. Once you play for me forever. That's what he said. He's calling guys that are playing on other teams. He's calling their coaches, make sure they're okay. You can provide zero value to him as a football player, and he will care about you forever. That is not the vibe that I get for Deion, and that's what I would trade. If that means I take a loss against a rival, okay, I will make that trade because I'm not interested in people being transactional with other people. That's a thing that I will not stand for.
I want to play a song for you, but the powers that be won't let me do it.
Hey, what's your brother's name, Ravi?
Raj.
Oh, so he had the comment there.
Did he? Oh.
Uh-oh. If he did, it might be. Oh, yeah, he did. What he said.
He says, I don't like spending money on little poop machines, says the guy who owns 3 dogs. Fair.
That's what I'm saying.
Fair.
Oh, man. Shout out Raj.
Man.
Quit
ganging up on me.
Look.
Yeah. Listen, if I
right now that I made a good point, and
if I could just let the kids outside and they could poop in the yard, that'd be fine. If I want to go somewhere and I was like, hey, you got to go to your kennel now. That'd be fine.
I just think it's
baby kennels are highly illegal.
It's interesting that somebody that spends an inordinate amount of energy fending off potential nonsense just because for the potential that he might have to go through with it.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't like a guy that is fending off potential nonsense just so he potentially doesn't have to go through with it. If
that's what he is,
I don't.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If that's what he is, and that's a plausible explanation, then I've read him wrong. I see him as the nonsense.
He very well may not be good at what he does, but I'm just telling you, I don't think it makes somebody a bad person.
That's fair. He might not be a bad person. I do think he's bad at what he does, and I think treating people transactionally is pretty close to making you a bad person. Like that's just how I feel.
So generally speaking, people don't establish relationships for what they can get out of it.
No, Well, you shouldn't.
Typically,
a lot of times they do.
Typically, do people establish relationships?
Often.
For what? Okay.
Yes.
Is that semantics, police? Here, I need TK. Is that transactional?
It depends on if the relationship's genuine or not. Really, I mean that's what it comes down to, and I can't tell that from the outside. But what he tells me from the outside doesn't look promising for him.
I didn't say we're not talking about if this is going to work or not.
I mean,
because I clearly agree with you.
I mean, it doesn't look promising for him as a human.
I don't see,
and that's where I lose you.
Well,
I'm willing to pass judgments that you are not. That's kind of what we learned here.
Wow.
That's TB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We'll be back more on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Ooh.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Wrapping up hour number one here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We're on the Pillar Exterior stage. I should probably set up the show.
It's just fantastic. I love doing that. Like, if nothing else, you may not get a lot of hot sports takes, but you'll get some hot sports takes. And we'll figure out life through sports.
Yeah, that's kind of what we do here.
Kind of nutty, man.
It's my brother.
Ravi here for Greg Doyle.
We'll get to Greg Doyle. My brother texted me during the break. He goes, I just want you to know that I switched from watching on Facebook to watching on YouTube just so we could comment about the poop machines. But I really wanted to be like, I know you just turned 40, but how old are you that you're watching on Facebook? Just kidding. Not hating on anybody that watches on our Facebook. We love you. You're the best. You're definitely under 60.
My mom probably just logged off.
Oh, come on. Mama Benning, you wouldn't do that to me.
I got the nicest birthday message from Ravi and Shane. I was like, who cares?
See, I do like people. You don't even know. Coming up on the show today, because we're about an hour in already, so we should probably do this. Robin Washut from Husker Online is going to come talk to us about a little Husker basketball. Got some transfers coming in.
I wanted to choke you over that whole conversation yesterday, but I'm going to leave it sit. Glad we're talking to Robin at 8.
We can get into it later. 8:45, we've got Brian Edwards, our Vegas insider. 9.
Using the cream cheese to Butter the bagel.
We got the Budweiser. 9, we got Michael Bruntz from Husker 24/7.
We can double dip with both guys too.
Yeah, we'll do a
little baseball, football,
a little basketball,
and a little basketball,
sprinkle
football.
it in.
Because there were some live periods on Tuesday.
Yeah, there were some live periods on Tuesday. We can talk about it.
Yeah, by the way, I may need you to give me Tuesday morning off, but we'll talk about that later.
Okay, cool.
Thanks.
Then we'll talk to Dan Rosen from NHL.com at 9:45. Well, DB will. I'm going to take off early. No, I'm just kidding.
Man,
it's the most research I've had to do for an interview in years.
Do you want me to ask some questions?
No,
yeah, that'd be great.
Just text them to me so I look like
all you're going to do is ask your brother.
I'm gonna like, hey Justin, feed me some questions.
Yeah.
And
wait a minute, he's a Lightning fan.
Yeah, he's a Tampa Bay fan. So
cool.
You'd be like, why is Shane asking all these Tampa Bay questions?
I just wondered how you knew about Kucherov so fast. I get the McKinnon and that deal, but he rattled off.
He did
3 of the top 5 like that.
Boom. It's because he was having a conversation.
He's like, oh, we just had this conversation in the car.
Yeah.
Shane, my little sports aficionado.
Yeah, just come to me with all your Tampa Bay questions.
Yep. Any hockey takes, get my man.
Big Kucherov guy.
He is.
So we were talking earlier in between yelling at each other about
that's
stammers.
not my style.
You good over there? Or you got like a little like hockey Tourette's thing going on? What's happening?
Wow. I'm boning up for this interview here.
Shane Gilmore.
It's just
Happy Schillerberg.
I'm boning up for this.
Did you just hit him with hockey Tourette's?
I just like shouting out names randomly. I don't know what else. Is it like a tick? You good?
You're such a nice person.
I'm lovely to be around.
What's that? That's not true.
It's actually funny for people that don't know me.
Oh, wow.
It's really amusing.
It's
Anyway,
about the 6th day in a row I've had tears.
well, that's what we do here. We're just here to have a good time. We're just here to have fun.
Wow.
Apparently, I don't know what Greg Doyle was trying to do yesterday. I don't know if he was trying to have fun or if he was just being
Did
weird.
we get the audio?
Shane, we don't have that, do we?
Do we have the?
I don't have the audio.
So,
I mean, it was just an awkward.
Well, the audio only tells half the story anyway because he starts off with a hand gesture.
Yeah,
and you need her look at him.
Yeah, because so it was so good. Well, I'll let you set it, but when her first response, I knew exactly what he did.
Yeah, she did a good job of answering.
I knew exactly what he did,
even though the initial question was awkward. Like he does that. So apparently, Caitlin Clark, which I had forgotten, she even does this. Caitlin Clark does this hand heart thing. If you're watching on the stream, she does this to her parents after every game, just to kind of acknowledge them, whatever, right? And so Greg Doyle does that to Caitlin Clark at her introductory press conference for the Indiana Fever, where obviously she was the number 1 pick, and Greg Doyle works for the Indy Star after being a national columnist for a while. And he basically goes, or she goes, "Hey, you like that?" And he goes, "I like that you're here," which was kind of a weird thing, but I think I knew what he meant. Like, "Hey, I'm glad you're in Indiana. I'm glad that we have, this superstar in our midst."
Yeah.
And then she pivots because that was kind of an awkward, like there wasn't really a question there, and so she pivots and goes, "Yeah, I do that to I do that to my parents after every game." And he goes, "Hey, you'd start doing that to me, and we'll get along just fine."
Mm-hmm.
And then she just gives him this look like, what in God's name led you to say something like that? And again, I don't think it was malicious. He ends up apologizing on Twitter or X or whatever. I think it was incredibly awkward and pretty toned. Like I don't even understand what he was trying to get out of that interaction. It's the issue I have sometimes when people say something and then they apologize. I was like, well, what were you trying to do there?
Mm.
Right? I try not to bring this up because I feel like we're on a little better terms now after he came on the show. But like when Greg McDermott had the plantation comment, right? One of the things I was trying to figure out was like, what were you trying to say? If that's not what you meant to say, which is fine, I'll believe that. Like, what were you trying to say? Like, that's where I'm like, because usually there's some thought process before words just start flowing out of people's mouths. I know you probably don't believe that hearing me every morning, but usually there is a thought process. And so when Greg Doyle goes, says what he says, like, oh, you start doing that to me, we'll get along just fine. I'm just what was that interaction supposed to be?
Yeah. And that would probably be the hardest part for him to explain.
Yeah.
I mean,
because if it wasn't malicious, it's pretty easy to explain, right? Like, hey, this is what I meant. It came out weirdly. I apologize.
If it wasn't like creepy,
yes,
not malicious.
Sure. Fair. That's a fair distinction. But if it was creepy, then it becomes hard to explain. If it wasn't intended to be creepy, actually really easy to explain, I think. Like, again, I'll use Coach McDermott for an example. If he was going to say a very common phrase that we've all heard, hey, I need you guys to not leave the reservation or stay on the reservation or whatever, right? That's a common phrase. And he realized in the midst of it, it's like, that might be an insensitive thing to say. Probably shouldn't say that anymore. And his brain started searching for something. He came up with something that was worse, right? That's a reasonable explanation. I can live with that. I'm okay with that. But then and that's an easy explanation if it's not supposed to be malicious. If Greg Doyle is not trying to be creepy there, it's a really easy explanation to just say, hey, this is what I was trying to do. And that's not what I meant, how I meant for it to come off, right? But if it is creepy, that's where it becomes hard to explain.
So I totally understand the awkwardness of what he did and the delivery. Mm-hmm. Are we okay, or do we just kind of wrong is wrong? Because we get into these things in 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024, where we're put off by everything that somebody says, and we got into this whole cancel culture and this, that, and the other. Is this something that is as easily distinguishable where the wrath that it is drawing currently is earned, or where do we draw the line if we're overreacting to something or not?
I mean, that's a fair question. I do think we tend to overreact, and I don't. At this point, because he doesn't have a history of being like this. He's got a history of being maybe a little pretentious or whatever. If you want to get to like the Danny Hurley, Matt Painter thing, or if you want to he's got a history of being a little strange. But I don't, from what I know,
he definitely, and a guy that I know pretty well, like we'll stop and we at Big Ten Media Days. We talk. Shane, play the audio real quick. See if we can get good audio on this.
Hi, Caitlin. Greg Doyle, Indy Star. Real quick, let me do this.
You like that?
I like that you're here. That you're here.
I do that at my family after every game, so.
Okay, well, let's start doing it to me, and we'll be able to get along just fine. So, question is.
Yeah, like I don't know what he was trying to do there.
Okay, I'm just.
But go ahead. Yeah.
So no let's just say you just dropped me in from Pluto. Sometimes that's where people think I'm from. Do you know what I originally thought he meant until I looked at her expression? And maybe I let that sway me.
Because we can't see his face.
I let that sway me.
Yeah.
I thought maybe he was saying at me doing my job. Like, if you think of me like that doing my job, we'll get along just fine.
I think that's given him a lot of benefit of the doubt, which is
that's not even
unfair.
That's not even like I don't even have to get loose to stretch.
That's
like
fair.
that's what I originally thought. I God is my witness.
Yeah, like, hey, you show me a little bit of love, we'll get along just fine.
Yes, like my job, my job,
platonically, but hey,
if this is how you think I'm doing my job,
I'll show you a little bit of love. We'll be good.
That's what I thought,
and that's fair. That's a plausible explanation, and I don't have anything to say. I don't have any.
888-6384. Am I crazy?
No, I don't think so.
Well, Lord knows we don't need the phone call because our YouTube stream is nuts.
Could he have been trying to do something funny there just based on that?
Play it again, Shane.
Because she was on SNL like the week before.
And she was sensational.
But she was. And he does laugh when he says the comment. So I think he was trying to make a joke. I think what happened, this is what I think happened. I think he did this thing, the heart hands thing, didn't know how to get out of it to get into his question, made a bad joke to try and move on.
Yeah. Shane, play it again.
That's how I took it.
See if we can blank slate. Clear your mind.
Okay.
Clear your mind.
Hi, Caitlin. Greg Doyle, Indy Star. Real quick, let me do this.
You like that?
I like that you're here. That you're here.
Shane, you didn't play the whole clip.
Oh, we got to go. We're out of time.
the fact that he changed his tone there,
Mhm.
I like that you're here. I think that's what set people up for whatever he was going to say next.
That was as weird as the last thing.
It was, for me,
Yeah.
it was more awkward
Fair.
than his reply.
Totally fair. And maybe he didn't expect her to say
Because I don't think his reply meant what we thought it was without him going, I like that you're here. Like,
Sure.
It was just kind of.
The whole thing was super awkward.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see. We got Robin Washut coming up next here on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. Welcome to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Kicking off hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla, and I want to remind you to go to supernovas.com to make sure you get tickets for this Saturday, April 20th, 6 p.m., first serve, right here at the CHI Health Center. You can check out the schedule. It's one of just 3 remaining home matches for the Supernovas. You can also do a little shopping on the website as well. Go hit up supernovas.com to get tickets and to get more information about Omaha's pro volleyball team. Joining us now is another pro, Robin Washut from Husker Online. Robin, how are you this morning?
Doing well. How are you guys?
Robin, how are you? I haven't talked to you forever. How are things?
We're going all right. You know, we're wrapping up spring ball. The portal is in full effect, so not a dull moment around here.
The wry chuckle gives me the chills, as if to say, "This dude is a ding dong. Why did he say that?"
Every day's a new adventure.
You're like, yeah, you just never know what you're gonna get when I talk to old DB. I'm sorry. I just like to make our guests comfortable. Where do you want to start? You want to go hoops, or do you want to talk open portions of practice? Where would Robin like to start?
I'd probably have more tangible takeaways from basketball than I do with the 40 minutes of individual drills we've watched with spring football. So
perfect. Let me ask you a hard-hitting question. Will Nebraska use all 4 remaining scholarships? No. I am kind of curious about that, though.
Yeah, that's a good question.
What do you think they do with open slots? Because they could maybe fill 2 more. They don't have to fill them all. Do you think they bank them, or how do you think the roster fills out up until these 4 spots currently?
I mean, I think there's always if the right player comes at the right time and it just kind of makes sense, and then sure, you go ahead and fill it. But like anymore, I just don't see the value of having 13 scholarship players. Like, for one, you're just spending your time babysitting somebody that's probably going to get mad because they're not playing, and then you have to deal with their parents or coaches or whatever it may be that are like mad at you because their kids aren't playing, and it just becomes kind of this unnecessary chore that you have to deal with. And then 7 months later, they're leaving the program anyway. So like anymore, like I think that you have, your probably 9 or 10 like kind of core scholarship guys that you build around, and if you can supplement that with another player or 2, then so be it. But I almost see more value in having additional spot for just to have, in case something comes up at mid-year or even into the next recruiting class. But then also just kind of take that burden off your plate as a coaching staff of trying to keep 13 guys happy in an era where that's an impossible thing to do.
Robin, do you think there is any value to maybe using 1 or 2 of those spots as, I don't know if flyer is the right term, but sort of developmental projects where you're like, I'm not really sure if this guy can play at this level, but I kind of like the frame and think there's something there. Like, let's see. And that way you're not necessarily babysitting somebody with expectations to play right away.
Yeah, and I think that's what they did last year with like Matar Chope, and he's gone.
Yeah,
and like they took a kind of a developmental freshman guy, and like an Eli Rice, and he even played. Now he's gone, and so like if anything, maybe hold on to those spots and give a scholarship to a guy like Sam Hoiberg or Cale Jacobson, or somebody that's an important member of your program. Especially with a guy like Sam, he's a no-brainer, but like with somebody like Cale. Like, he's not going to play a whole lot, but like he's an important part of just the practice and what he provides to you on the scout team, but then also just from a culture standpoint, where he's buying into everything that you're doing. And again, he's a completely maintenance-free type player. Why not reward a guy like that if you have the opportunity to do so? So again, it's all year to year, player to player. Like, there's going to be situations where it makes sense to fill all 13, but I just think with the way that roster management is quickly heading in college basketball, I remember back when Tim Miles was here, he was a proponent to reducing scholarship numbers and having it take down to 10 just because of that same issue. And that was even before the portal and NIL. So anymore, I'm kind of more and more in that boat where it just seems like an unnecessary task to fill all 13 in an era where just keeping guys for multiple years is harder than it's ever been.
So, Robin, let me ask you something. Based on, it's not even so much about what's available versus what's needed. He got a lot of, Coach Hoiberg got a lot of credit for the meshing of the pieces when he brought portal guys in and how the personalities allowed him to really flourish as a coach. Has he done it enough where we don't look at talent so much as fit, or is this still a deal where, all right, we've got a year and a half of you trending in the right deal. Let's see if you can still build on before we anoint. Yep, I trust the fact you know what you're looking for in the portal now when it comes to fit.
Right. I think he has built some equity there with what he's done the last two recruiting cycles. But I think that the goal is it's not just getting good dudes and high character players. Like, you got to elevate your talent. And so that's kind of the balance there where you want to continue that method of bringing in guys that fit the culture you've tried to build over the last two off seasons, while also upgrading the level of talent on your roster. So, with the guys they've brought in so far, I think that they all kind of fit their respective roles, and they certainly check all the boxes that they're looking for is continuing this kind of culture rebuild. But I think that, the goal is to make sure that the guys that they're bringing in are better than the ones that either they lost or, the ones that, they're going to be playing alongside again. So it's still a process. I think they're going to try to look for some more, dynamic, day one starter level players that they can continue that, like I said, that correlating path of continuing what you've done while also making sure you're getting better players. And I think when you win, I mean, you can find really good dudes that are also really good players that is going to try to continue that trend in the right direction.
Robin, out of the three guys that have committed so far, Griffiths, Worcester, and Morgan, who do you think makes or has the best fit in terms of what Nebraska needed?
Well, how much of it has to depend on Matt's health too, if in fact he does have surgery?
Yeah. So that's kind of the big question mark right now, which we don't know. At this point, I'm expecting Rink to be back, but again, that's just part of the equation here. Like, he can come back, but if he requires surgery, how long is that recovery going to take? And what type of player is he going to be next season coming off that surgery? Is he going to miss time? And if so, how much time? So there's a lot of layers there, which makes a guy like Andrew Morgan really important, because those two have very similar skill sets offensively. Now, Morgan's not the shooter Rink is, but he is really good with the ball. He's a good passer. He's kind of just one of those smart players that can be the facilitator out of the post the way Rink was. So that, like, just having two of those guys is a really good luxury. But in the potential that you might have to play games or an extended part of the season without Rink, having a guy like Andrew to kind of slide in there and fill that role is really important. So, I mean, that was a pretty critical addition, just, especially because of the unknowns around Rink right now. But then, they also lost their two best 3-point shooters and probably maybe three of their best 3-point shooters with the add in Jamarcus Lawrence. So they needed perimeter shooting. And while Gavin Griffiths didn't shoot well really at all last season at Rutgers, he was a top 50 recruit for a reason and regarded as one of the better 3-point shooters in the 23 class. And kind of towards the end of last year started to find his groove a little bit. So he fills that void. And, oh, by the way, he's 6'8" and long, and kind of does, provides those mismatches that Fred likes to exploit in his system. So, he checks a lot of boxes. And then with Worcester, he's a guy that started 101 games under Craig Smith. And if you're the lead point guard for a coach like that, you're going to bring a lot of intangibles to the table. And he's not the shooter that maybe some are looking for, but I mean, when you have an assist to turnover ratio like that, and you're just kind of one of those stable quarterbacks on the court, there's a lot of value in that regard too. That you lose Jamarcus Lawrence, and now you can have Bryce Williams play more off the ball, which I think is his kind of plays to his strengths more. And then you pair Worcester and Ulis, suddenly you got a really veteran backcourt. And how do you win in March? With talented bigs and veteran point guards. So in theory, Nebraska has now addressed both of those while also adding a high-level shooter.
So I guess that answers my follow-up to that was because I was going to say, hey, listen, I get Lloyd, I get, Jop, I get Cada to some degree. I definitely get Wilcher. Lawrence surprised me a little. So my question was going to be, listen, with Lawrence's departure, do we assume that Ulis is the guy? And does Nebraska still need another backcourt mate?
They need to score. I think they're okay at point because Ulis is certainly going. If he's not a starter, he's going to play extensive minutes off the bench as that first lead guard off the bench. And you say the same thing with Raleigh. Like whoever starts out of those two, the other one is going to play a lot. So I don't know how much they can play together just because neither of them are really dynamic shooters or anything like that. But both of those guys are going to, I think, lock down that lead guard role. So what they need now, you have Bryce Williams as kind of your go-to, scorer on the wing, but they need another one. They need more shooting. I think when you kind of see some of the names surfacing now, they were all in on front court guys, which they still are, but now you're starting to see names pop up with just kind of those go-to Casey type shooters that is, they got Griffiths, but they need more. Like I said, they lost 3 of their best 3-point shooters from last year. They need more firepower on the perimeter, especially going back to the ring conversation, if that element isn't there. So I would anticipate they're going to just get an elite level 3-point shooter. And then they need somebody that, along with Bryce, you can give the ball to when the shot clock's winding down, just go make a play. And so those are 2 priority spots in the backcourt. I don't think that they're going to need to get another, point guard type because they have those 2. I mean, Sam Hoiberg can play that role. So, I mean, they've got options there, but they need more shooting and they need more, just give the ball to a guy and let him go and get a bucket.
So I don't want to put words in your mouth, but when you say go get a score, is that kind of the same or not the same at all as if I asked you, how are they going to get more athletic on the wing? Because I still have that A&M game in my mind where it was athletically such a mismatch. Is that one and the same? Is that in addition to, is that different?
Yeah, I mean, you need to upgrade both. Like,
okay,
a 6 foot, 190 pound scorer is only going to take you so far. Like, there's certainly a need for that, but you saw that. I mean, if Nebraska wants to win at this next level that they came close to, that A&M game is still very much in the minds of a lot of Nebraska fans, and I'm sure that coaching staff, where they realize they need to get more athletic. And so, the guys they brought in, I don't know if necessarily athleticism is the first thing that comes to mind there. Certainly they all have that to a degree, but there was one player on the court last year that looked like he matched up with A&M, and it was Juwan Gary. And beyond that, there really wasn't much else. So they just need size, they need strength, they need athleticism, both on the wing, and I think they need to add it in the post too. I think that's another priority. Is you got kind of your skilled offensive big and Morgan. You need a kind of an enforcer type, because you lost Alec. You need that guy that's going to go clear out the paint, get a defensive rebound, and make people think twice about coming to the rim with blocking shots. And right now, that's a pretty big void. So I talk about the scoring needs on the perimeter. They still need some size, physicality in the post that can help them on both ends of the court against that type of athleticism they saw in the tournament.
So, Robin, when I hear you talk about, okay, they need to upgrade their shooting because obviously their top 3 shooters left, and the guys that they've got coming back aren't necessarily lighting the world on fire, or the guys that they've brought in from the transfer portal. But then you also tell me they need to upgrade their athleticism. That to me sounds concerning because usually the thing that offsets a deficit in athleticism is shooting. Do you have any sort of level of concern that they're not going to be able to find that right match kind of based on what they've constructed so far?
Well, and that's kind of the luxury of having 4 open spots, is you can address that in a lot of different ways. So, I mean, they can get their spot up shooter while also, getting a, kind of a lockdown perimeter defender. And that's the other thing with Worcester too. Like, I mean, he's a big boy. Like, he's 6'4", 200+ pounds. That was arguably Utah's best defender for the last 3 years here. So, I think they did address that in some regard, but they just need more of it. I think it's more, but it's like there's a void here. I think it's more about supplementing and continuing to upgrade, because the core roster they bring back, and plus the guys that they've added so far, I think Nebraska's got a pretty good start right now. The issue is they just got to kind of continue it. So I wouldn't say level of concern, but there's still work to be done to address those remaining needs. And looking at the guys that they're in on, and I think from an NIL standpoint, they're probably as competitive as they've been in a long, long time, maybe ever since kind of the real start of the NIL era. And that's going to allow them to get their foot in the door with guys that fit that bill of all those different areas they need to address in a way that, a year ago and certainly 2 years ago, they probably couldn't even consider, just because with the success comes more resources, and with more resources, suddenly you're a better recruiter.
Dipping and dapping with our man, Robin Washut from On 3, so we know what's happening. How about football here, Rob? Okay, you can laugh. That was kind of funny. Thank you. So it's okay.
Just freestyling on us over here,
listen,
Robin.
I got it, Robin. This just in is you've known me for so long. It's like I'm an odd duck, right? Novel. All right, but let me ask you this, Robin, because you guys are kind of you're on it. We know some of the rumor mills with the portal and in Nebraska, and some potential secondary targets. Which, at first blush, you're probably thinking secondary. What? Like, aren't we good? Like, what's going on?
Yeah, I know.
Right? Number one, any generalizations we want to make in terms of what that means for current guys on the roster, or we just trust implicitly, hey, they know what they need, and maybe there will be some surprise portal additions or departures?
Yeah, I think that there's probably always that potential anymore. I think of the guys that, when you look at potential departures, just from the sound of things, I don't know if anybody's expecting any big guys, like any big names to leave. But again, you just never know in this era. Like there's zero surprises anymore in our portal world of collegiate athletics. So like you always kind of got to be prepared for that. But like I agree with you. Like secondary, like it seems like the last position they need to address through the portal, just because of the bodies they already have there and the talent that they seem to have there. But again, you also have to kind of be cognizant that if you see an opportunity to bring in a good player that you think is better than what you have, you got to go do it. Just because everybody's on a year-to-year deal here, and if you have the opportunity to get somebody that can make your team better and get you to where you need to go, that's kind of the cost of doing business. But at the same time, it's got to be the right guy, especially if you're taking him this late.
Yeah.
Like you're missing all spring ball. Like he's got to be somebody that doesn't have a lot of catching up to do. So that's kind of the one caveat when you look at some of the portal names. I just don't know how aggressive Nebraska is really going to be. They might be putting out feelers and just kind of checking in on guys in case they have some unexpected departures. But I just don't anticipate a lot of like significant movement, both with big names, so to speak, leaving, and then like high profile additions through the portal post spring. I think they want to try to keep this thing as close to intact as they can, but you also got to make sure that you're prepared in case the unexpected happens post spring ball.
I told Ravi, I said this tongue in cheek, but now with kind of this stuff, it's my own thought, even though it was kind of half-wit at the time. I said, this strikes me as this was on the heels of Coach Rule talking about the portal and this, that, and the other. And I said, this strikes me as the type of year with so many guys clumped together. I could see players leaving, not because of anything monumental, but just because there isn't enough separation, right? People get impatient. So I'd say, maybe people would leave, but it's not because of anything earth-shattering like this, that, or the other. It's just, listen, man, we're three redshirt juniors or COVID year sophomores, or because I look at wide receiver, it's clogged like that. I look at defensive backs, it's clogged like that. You may just get offensive. Oh, I was just getting ready to say that, where guys could just say, you know what, like there isn't enough space in, but not to go all Dave Matthews, but like space between, right? It's just like we got to do something different.
Yeah, no, I do think that, and now with the players having more leverage than they've ever had in the history of college sports, like why would you blame them? Why would you want to be in a 4-player committee at your position when you can go somewhere else, make, maybe not as much or at least close to the same NIL and have a defined starting role. Like, I mean, that's the opportunities that players have now that, on paper, like you want to treat it like a video game where you have this just like a bunch of depth of 80 and 90 rated players, but like it just doesn't happen anymore. Like that's it's just really hard to do now. And so, yeah, I agree with you that, I mean, though if there are kind of unexpected departures, that's going to be the type of player where it's
that's what I think.
A saturated position that, you're disappointed to see him leave, but it's going to be it's going to be deals where like you can understand it. Like they're going to go somewhere where they can play and have an opportunity to do what they want to do on the field.
If I mean like even if it's just guys with similar skill sets, like if I'm a slight twitchy wide receiver, because it's not just the positions, it's like it's the specifics within the position. If I'm a slight DB and I'm playing for corner, how many other slight DBs are there? Like, I want something in the secondary that's a set apart. If I'm a wide receiver, I want to be the 6'4" guy that's 190. There's only a handful of those, right? So it could just be like, I don't know if I can if I'm distinguished enough. And there's nothing like that's not an indictment. It just is what it is, because Coach Rule said he's letting us know whether you come or whether you go, I think we're going to be okay. It's up to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And again, I think that's kind of how you got to approach this. Like, guys are going to leave, but like, you just got to understand that, for one, they're probably leaving for a reason as far as what their role is going to be at Nebraska. And then two, you kind of got to just understand their situations, that especially with not just multiple guys at their position, but what if they're multiple guys in the same class? Like, that's going to be the same deal for the next 2, 3, 4 years, where you're in that kind of same role where there's a group of you all doing the same thing. Mm-hmm. And if you want to truly separate, it's going to be really hard to do at Nebraska. So it's kind of the world of roster management in basketball and football and across the board, where you just got to accept that there's going to be turnover. Even if there's guys that you want to keep around, they probably want to stay around. Sometimes it just makes sense to turn the page and find other opportunities.
That's Robin Washut, Husker Online. Robin, we appreciate your time, and hopefully we will catch up again soon.
Thanks, Robin.
Absolutely. Good talking to you guys.
That's Robin Washut, Husker Online. Really good stuff there.
There's a lot in there I want to get to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We got time.
Like that right there. And we just, I want to buoy that or pit it against Coach Rule saying, kind of his demeanor.
Yeah.
He gives you the sense that everything's okay regardless. Similar skill sets. How do you separate yourself? And remember what I joked about the other day that's now not so funny?
What's that?
In passing, going into break, I go, we keep seeing all these videos of guys catching these long passes and running after the catch. Who's covering these guys? Do you remember that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe that's a thing.
That's a two-way street, for
right?
Sure.
Guys got to get on top of those guys, don't
It's
they?
always the scary thing about scrimmages. If one thing's good, the other might be bad. That's CBM Ravi Lulla. We'll be back. More Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back. 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 You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We're halfway through the show here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. That is DB. I'm Ravi, Lulla, and we are brought to you by our friends at the NDOT Highway Safety Office, reminding you, hands on the wheel, eyes and focus straight ahead. The driver has one job to do. That is to drive. This message from the NDOT Highway Safety Office. I know sometimes that we can be distracting while you're maybe listening to us in the car on AM 590 or ESPN Tri-Cities.
Oh, it's entertaining stuff.
Keep those eyes on the road. That's all I'm asking. Hands
NDOT.
on the wheel, eyes on the road. Love our friends over at the NDOT Highway Safety Office. Interesting stuff there from Robin, and I wanted to jump into the football portion of it because I was going to ask him, we ran out of time, and he sort of started to address it a little bit. I'm curious if some of these guys that inevitably you're going to have guys in the portal at the end of spring, right? Because you have to, just from a number standpoint, pretty much. I mean, there's only so much room. But I'm curious how fans will perceive that this year versus how they may have in the past, whether it's in year one of Rule or the last couple of years of Frost. Because I get the sense that both because of the things that Coach Rule says, like, hey, it's your right to go to the portal if you want, but, you know, we think the guys that need to be here are going to be here, and we love the guys that are here. And just the way that the team has improved their depth over the course of this last year, I don't know that there would be the same panic from the fan standpoint that there would have been in previous years, right? Like, I don't know, we were just going through an exercise of going through wide receivers, right? There's a lot of options at that group.
Yeah, at first blush, do you remember what you just rattled off?
The names?
Yeah, and in no particular order.
Yes.
This is just I like that you did this off air because it gave me a chance to it's like proof of concept in my head.
Yeah.
Right? Because I'm thinking, shoot, if you're looking at potentially, like, why would national guys be linking a couple guys from either TCU or SMU to, I mean, it's all over Twitter feeds, right?
Yeah.
Coming to visiting Nebraska or Georgia or whatever. And you try not to, you're not pawning that off as fact, but it did get my mind thinking.
Sure.
So we just started, and that was just DBs.
Yeah.
And in particular corners, I think at the safety spot, they're going to be pretty good, and they play 3 of them.
Mm-hmm. So you got a little more options.
Yeah, like, and a couple guys are old. Like, you have some experienced guys, right? Hartzog and Singleton and Giff, and those guys aren't going to be around forever.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
there's light at the end of the tunnel. If
you got to get the next
group ready,
right? And so you get at first blush, you gave me
Banks.
You gave me Banks,
Nair.
Yep.
Lloyd.
Yep.
Bell.
Yes, you skipped one, but yeah. In no particular order. I'm just
Who else did I say?
Bullock,
yep. Barney.
Yep.
Doss.
No, you did not give me Doss.
Okay.
You gave me Coleman.
That's right, Coleman.
So you gave me Banks, Nair, Lloyd, Coleman, Bullocks, Bell, Barney.
So 7 guys.
Yeah.
And then you added Doss at the end.
Yeah.
For the 8th guy.
Because he played last year.
Yeah.
Right?
And they liked him, and he was the guy that before he got hurt got a lot of run in terms of, this is a guy that might be good, might be useful for us this year.
So right off the bat,
8 guys.
You have 8 guys.
And we've forgot a couple. Bonner.
Oh, yeah. Move back to wide receiver.
Okay,
I'm going to jot him down.
I'm going through the list here.
Give me another.
Bullock, Bonner, did Coleman, did Doss.
Yep.
IGC. I don't know what to do with him.
I'll assume the best. Okay, I'll give you IGC.
I mean, he's there and he's played.
And he's productive.
He's there and he's played, right?
Okay, I'll give you that one.
I don't think either of the Bellevue West guys are going to impact this year. That might be mostly it.
Okay, so
Keelan Smith, you don't think impacts this year? Probably
going to be a good player, though, I think.
Right, but we've got a
I'm
year
with
probably
you.
at least.
Okay, so just hypothetically,
so that's 9.
So this 10.
10. Okay.
So this got me thinking.
Yeah.
Let's say you're pick one.
Let's say you're Jaden Doss.
Okay, you're Jaden Doss.
Mm-hmm. You played last year.
You played a little bit last year
as a true freshman.
But then all of a sudden you see, give me 2. Take a look at your list.
Yeah, let's see. You've got Demetrius Bell.
Okay.
And let's say Barney.
Okay.
I think probably I've tried to pick guys sort of same body types.
You see those guys start to flourish.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not an indictment on
maybe you didn't regress.
Maybe you didn't get worse.
Maybe they got better.
Maybe those guys just got better in their off year.
Yeah.
So you're like, oh, poop. We're about the same age. We're kind of the same skill set.
Body type, skill set.
I may go do something else different because there's not enough separation.
Yeah.
And I played last year, but I may play less this year.
And you're never going to have a guarantee of separation, right? That's the real issue, right? No matter.
So if those guys, guys,
hypothetical.
Stay in here. Like,
we're just doing an exercise here.
Because DB is even worse.
Yeah.
Especially at corner.
Yeah. A lot of similar guys.
It's not I don't think it's an indictment. It's just the reality of kind of how people think.
Well, let me give you an example here, right? 2 years ago, Golden State won the
offensive line is a bear too.
Yes. Like 2 years, Golden State won the NBA title, right? Mm-hmm. They're not appreciably worse than they were then. Everybody else got a lot better. Now they're a little worse, right? So maybe it's not a perfect example, but they went from NBA champion to 10 seed in 2 years, mostly because everybody else got a lot better, right? Denver got better. OKC got better. Minnesota got better. That's 3 right ahead of you right there. Boom. Without even the Clippers, if you're healthy.
And for the majority of the year until this last quarter tailspin, Sacramento got better.
Sacramento got better, right? Like you have a bunch.
They just beat their head in.
The Lakers got better from last year to this year. I think they're better than they were last year. I thought their supporting staff, so you can be basically the same and end up in a worse spot, right? That's what we're talking about with possibly in the wide receiver room, in the offensive line room. We talked about this last year with Ben Scott, right? You firmly believe, and I have no reason to doubt you, that there was a chance he wouldn't have started last year because Justin Evans was so good.
Yeah, at this point last year, I'd have been like, I don't know.
And Justin Evans is younger, theoretically is improving at a faster rate than Ben Scott is. That's generally how aging and maturing goes, right? So would you be shocked if a guy like Ben Scott, again, hypothetical, got passed? Like, that's not shocking.
No, I hear you.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I like that. And I think it's sound, too.
Or Turner Corcoran.
Oh, good one.
Guy that's played a ton.
Good one.
Really talented, but has been banged up, probably not improving much anymore. And
hasn't had the opportunity, right? Being in a green jersey.
Yes,
other young
guys are coming.
Playing, yeah.
Other guys are coming. They've got a lot of guys that they like. You got a lot of young guys that have been getting a lot better. Like, that's a guy that, okay, maybe if he ends up in a transfer portal, that's not an indictment.
Like I just told you on a humbug, right? You said, man, who flashes? I said, no, Ramir Stewart. And immediately people were like, who?
Yeah.
Right?
Like, got to go find him on the roster.
So then people will immediately, and I got this in my DMs. Well, what about Kobe Bretz? Listen, because I'm saying, and Bretz is my guy.
Yeah.
Right?
Because you single somebody out doesn't mean it's an indictment on everybody else.
Yeah. So because
I asked the question.
The question you posed to me
was
a
guy.
Yeah, that was different. Or how'd you say
that?
Because this was different than the guy that.
Yeah, I think I asked you
as meeting my. Is different than my. Okay.
I think this was the guy that surprised you.
Yeah.
Is how I asked it.
I saw Ramir Stewart made a couple tackles at the line of scrimmage where I was like, that dog will hunt.
Yeah. Whereas like Kobe Bretz, a lot better, probably not surprising you.
Yeah.
Much.
So context does matter because you could get just look at the cornerbacks.
The defensive backs are it's a crazy.
And again, I don't. And it's not just it's. They're different, right? Like Gifford has a different role than let's say Hartzog, but
yeah.
So when I think field safety versus box support, there's different roles for those safeties, right? Like you're going to play Singleton, Giff, and Hartzog at the same time.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they all kind of have different skill sets.
They all have their
So you can go.
You got the rangy, really good athlete. You got the box guy.
Yeah, you can go 6 deep.
You got the hybrid guy.
You can go 6 deep at that spot and you'll probably have all 6 of those guys play because it's different skill sets.
Now, I don't think the 2 corners and the nickel guy is the same.
No,
right? Because you need numbers there.
Yeah,
and you need quality numbers because they'll find you.
They got 30 defensive backs currently on the roster. 30. That's a lot.
It is.
Now, some of those are walk-on. Some of those are guys that are probably special teams guys. But you're probably talking about 20 legitimate options.
Yeah, I could just
at defensive back.
And we'll get to why we won't panic either. And it's based on what you talked about the other day with what Coach Rule said.
We've got Brian Edwards, Vegas Insider, coming up next.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio. Now, Vegas insider, senior handicapper, and fan of the cold Budweiser bottles, Brian Edwards.
It's got to be touchdown, touchdown, touchdown.
Brian Edwards.
I don't really love it.
Brian Edwards.
Were they using the cream cheese to butter the bagel?
Brian Edwards.
I'm going with the cowgirl.
Here is Brian Edwards.
Wrapping up hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590 ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We're live here on the Pillar Exterior stage, and we are joined now by Brian Edwards, our Vegas insider. B, what's going on?
Good morning, gentlemen. What's happening?
How's that how are those fiber optics treating you, B?
My internet, that is?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Well, I'm vying for Uncle of the Week honors. I've been in Tallahassee watching my nephew's baseball games the last 2 nights, so I'm at my mom's place. So you guys tell me if my
I love the fact you're so close with. That's cool.
You
man.
look crystal clear. The image looks great.
All right, good. I've got the sun. One of the blinds does not work, and the sun is beaming in on me.
You're in your favorite place in the world, though, Tallahassee, right?
Listen,
not so much.
It's funny. The Gator having to converse with the Seminole over here, like, is pure classic.
Right. So my family, or my mom, lives in Quincy, like 20 miles away from Tallahassee, and my sister lives in Tallahassee. So I've been in Tallahassee going to the baseball games. But
Florida State, it's a family affair.
No, my family is fortunately 20 miles away from campus.
Hey, so. My 14-year-old is a big UFC guy, Brian, and we were talking Sunday morning after that stretch, and I said it was one of those weird things with like such a stacked card. He was the most disappointed in Oliveira because I think he gravitates towards people that seem less sane than not. So he's an Oliveira guy. But with the last 3 matches, they progressively got worse, right? Gaethje and Holloway is going to be an all-timer. I thought Jan and Weili was unbelievable. Jan's toughness was unbelievable after she was almost asleep in the first round. And then, the capper was a snoozer. And I was like, it was still a fantastic card, but they progressively got worse of the last 3 fights.
It did, but I thought the early and the early prelims is what they call them, and then the regular.
And you got those on the you got those on the network.
They got those for free.
Yeah, I mean, I thought those were great, but yeah, you're right about the main card. But like, it was one of those cards where I just felt like, I mean, the early in the regular prelims, I was looking forward to just as much. I mean, Holloway Gaethje was the people's main event, if you will. But I mean, Yuri, how about the comeback by Prohaska?
I know, tough.
And that was huge for him, because a loss there would have been bad in terms of his in the title picture anytime soon.
When you I just want
go ahead.
So with the Gaethje Holloway thing, I and you asked me and I told you, I said it's top 10 fights, I think, but it's definitely top 5 finishes.
Yeah.
Because there's so many great fights, and we've seen some electric finishes too, but given what was at stake and where Gaethje is in his career, you think Holloway kind of settles in at 55? He looked like a new man.
He did, and I mean, I think you do whatever you want with him. I mean, I think he was so great that obviously he can get Topuria if he wants him at 145.
Well, he called him out. He called him out, didn't he? And Topuria didn't take the bait. He just was like, gave you the little boxing reps, like, hey.
Right. And but then again, I mean, you can do him and challenge anybody from any division for a BMF. I mean, I'm hopefully 155 or 145. Or I mean, if Poirier were to get hurt, ahead of the fight with Islam, I mean, Holloway would want to take it on short notice. I mean, in other words, he could do all kinds of different things right now. Good spot to be in.
This might be a dumb question, but as you're talking about weight classes there, and I'm much more familiar with boxing than I am UFC. I know that UFC and Dana kind of, plays matchmaker to make these fights, but do they control where guys go weight class, or do they have a little more autonomy there when it comes to what division they want to fight in?
Well, Dana always tells them what he'd like for them to do, but I mean, when it comes to weight, I mean, if somebody can't make a weight, I mean,
sure,
they'll do it.
Now, he doesn't really dictate the way, or he just kind of strongly suggests.
Right, exactly. Like, I remember Gastelum, when somebody misses weight like more than once, like he'll say, "All right, Gastelum, you're middleweight now. You're not fighting 170 anymore," or different situations like that.
Sure. Okay, that makes sense. Thank you for educating me. Want to switch over to NBA here because we've got some NBA playoff action going on. We get a rematch tonight, or on Friday night, Bulls Heat, of what we saw last night. How much do you kind of take into play what you saw when you play teams back to back like this in the early play-ins? Does it give you any indication, or you kind of have to trust on the more long-term data?
Well, I'm not going to go with a side. I'm going to go with a total. And by the way, I got on the ESPN app that Jimmy Butler's definitely out. And in fact, for a couple
it is the MCL.
Yeah.
Yep. For a couple of weeks. So basically he's done. So anyway, I don't think he impacts the total a whole lot because he's elite defensively and offensively. So in my opinion, it's kind of a wash. So the over is cashed in 5 straight for the Bulls. And this is such a low total, either 207.5 or 208. 71 of Chicago's 83 games have had at least 210. Now, Miami's normally an under team, but the over is currently on a 10-1 run for the Heat. And the 3 combined scores when these teams met this year were 234, 240, and 218. Now, I know the playoffs is a different animal, especially towards totals, but I mean, it's such a low number. Everything's saying over to me. So I'm going to go over 207.5 or 208 Bulls Heat.
So this one's interesting because they would be the ultimate light switch team if, in fact, they can pull this off, because their stars, and who knows what's going to happen with Kawhi, haven't been intact for a minute, man. Well, how are you capping the Clippers?
Man, so it's either fade or pass on the Clippers especially with Kawhi's status. Like, what are y'all thinking he's going to play in Game 1? I mean,
I don't.
I basically never think he's going to play. So
right, especially this time of year since he got to the Clippers. Yeah, 100%. Like, I don't think he's going to play in Game 1. And Dallas is just rolling right now. I know
Dallas is playing so good right now.
Yeah, I mean, I know they lost their last 2. They weren't trying.
This is, again, much like the Seminoles. He was a avid supporter of Luka. Then he hated iso ball, so he got off.
Now that Luka's
they're
playing
good
well
ball
again, so he's back on the Luka hype train. That's what you're hearing over
this
here.
This is how I wanted to see Luka play from the start, and he's finally playing. Finally playing pretty basketball instead of that James Harden crap.
Yeah. So right. So yes.
See?
I like that. I like that. Yes. So I like that a lot. So Dallas has won 16 of 18, at least until their last 2 regular season games. I know they sat everybody the last one. I think they did it at home against Detroit as well. So 16-4 last 20, but when they were trying 16-2, Clippers struggling down the stretch. I don't think Kawhi's playing, and they just seem to be a mess the last several weeks, if not a month.
When you're taking, do you have any faith? Do you like OKC? Because I know you like odds, and as a 1 seed, you can get good numbers on anybody not named the Nuggets. Like, what are you liking for value?
Well, so OKC, they just don't have the playoff experience, but I mean, I'm open-minded toward them. In other words, a lot of these series, I kind of want to watch a game and kind of start to figure it out. Like I don't have any like strong, or not super strong opinions on these first games. I want to see how OKC looks. I mean, we don't even know who they're playing yet. I mean, I'm guessing it's probably going to be Sacramento with Zion out and New Orleans struggling at home. But I mean, actually, New Orleans has owned Sacramento, and they played them without Zion once this year, and they beat them 133-110 in Sacramento. So that game tomorrow night in New Orleans is a total pass for me. So yeah, we don't even know who OKC is playing yet. And, that Sacramento team got a lot of – I know it lost in the first round, but that was 7 games of good experience against Golden State last year.
Yeah, is there anyone in the West that you are even intrigued by outside of Denver? And I guess conversely, is there anybody in the East that you're intrigued by outside of Boston? Because I'm looking at these 2 slates and both sides of the playoffs, and I go – feels a lot like we're headed for a collision course here.
I mean, I think Philadelphia is probably Boston's. I mean, with the way Milwaukee's a mess and Giannis not being healthy, and just Milwaukee just being a mess. I think
sucks.
Right, and Doc's a horrific playoff history. Well said. And in the West, man, I think it's got to be Dallas, right? With the way they've played lately.
I think so. They're the only team that even intrigues me at all.
Yeah, but all that said, it's going to be Boston, Denver in the finals. But yes, I think if anybody challenges them, it's Dallas. I mean, maybe OKC because
if they're early, if they're ready.
Yeah, we'll see. I kind of just want to be wait and see with OKC.
The talent on that roster is high.
I'm a little curious, and maybe like you said, the Giannis thing with Boston. But man, you're just fast forwarding a team that hasn't been clutch to be clutch.
Exactly.
You may not need
there was nothing I watched with Philly that gave me the inkling. Oh yeah, man, they'll be good over a 7-game stretch.
Yeah,
I just wait for the wind to pick up and something to happen to Embiid. He just doesn't look
like he's moving good.
Just doesn't look like he's moving well.
Right, but maybe that gets better as he gets in better condition. But yeah. I don't know. Again, Boston, Denver. It's probably what it's going to be.
Speaking of Denver, real quick, Lakers-Denver, game 1. You have a play there?
Yep. I will be on the Nuggets -7 against the Lakers. I know the Lakers are playing good, but Denver has won 8 in a row over them and is covered in 5 straight.
That's our guy, Brian Edwards, Vegas Insider, MajorWager.com, Brian Edwards Sports. B, we appreciate it as always.
Thanks, fellas. Y'all have a good one.
Coming up next, we will have Michael Bruntz from Husker 24/7 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back. will be back. We will be back. We will be back. Welcome to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Kicking off hour number 3 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're also on KFOR in Lincoln. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We're here on the Pillar Exterior stage at the Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. We are joined now by Michael Bruntz of Husker 24/7. Bruntsy, what's up, buddy?
Not much. Good morning. How are you?
Oh, we're doing well. So Shane was telling me we're about to come back and you got you on the phone or whatever, and I was like, nope, not doing the interview. And then it kind of turned into this, what could Bruntz talk about for 30 minutes by himself? Like, what could you monologue on for 25 minutes, just no prompts?
I could probably go 25 minutes on. I could probably go on Major League Baseball for a bit. I could probably do like Major League Baseball. Yeah, I could give you 15 minutes on craft beer probably.
Okay.
Why does that not surprise me?
That's pretty stereotypical, I think.
I mean, you look like a craft beer guy, and I don't even know what that is. But you look like a guy that would enjoy craft beers.
I don't have a beard though. Like I feel like
that's true. That would help.
Much spread there.
I think the glasses help, and I think you look like you've toured a microbrewery or two.
Do you just
the
thumb your
Coors-
nose up at Shafe when he like falls in love all over again with Coors?
No, I can appreciate the Coors. I've got a soft spot for bad cheap beers. So
Oh, gosh.
that's okay too. But
Gives me the willies just thinking about.
It's like me and Creed. Like, I know it's bad, but I got a soft spot for it. That doesn't mean I don't like good music. Just got a soft
You guys
spot for
ever
the bad stuff.
Yeah, like when I used to live in California, you used to be able to get Olympia. That it was like this really cheap lager from Washington.
OMG, yes. Well, why didn't you get some hams while you were at it, Bruntz?
It was hard. It was harder to get out there. But you could get Olympia and you could get the Tecate.
Oh, yeah, there you go. My buddy's from Minnesota,
Do you
and
know
he's
they
a
stock
big
gas
grain,
stations
He's a
with
big
that now?
grain belt guy.
Oh, Grain Belt, yeah, sure. BC, he took me to a Twins game like 5 or 6 years ago, and the Grain Belt tall boy and a little bit of baseball is all right. That's you're living.
So Tecate, that's like a thing though, Bruntz. Like it's a lot of places, primarily in gas stations.
Yes, yeah, gas stations and corner stores.
Yep.
And the price is always right.
That is amazing.
My guess was that you could have gone 25 minutes on the Moneyball A's.
I could do that. I could give you about 25 minutes on like mid-aught days too, which is like post Moneyball, which is even worse.
So big like Jack Cust guy.
Yeah, like Jack Cust. That was in the Sheets era when he was the big signing for a year. Kevin Kuzminoff.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, Kuz.
There was a guy that used to walk around the Coliseum. See, I'm going to give you 25 minutes here.
I love it.
Would used to walk around whenever they signed Kuzminoff dressed as like an astronaut, but he was a Kuzmanaut. So
OMG.
It was the Kuz didn't last long in Oakland, but it was a fun ride while he was there.
Here I was thinking we were going to talk about an estuary that doesn't have anything to do with forming rivers or anything.
He's like the most fun player that just is never going to put it together. Mark my word.
I think Bruntz will fight you over that because he's got a Buxton over there in Minnesota that's fun for about 7-8 games at a time, and not sure he's ever going to put it together either.
I mean, he's like 10 years in. He's not putting it together. Like that's.
Did you see the video where he almost got run over in Milwaukee by the softball?
Oh yeah,
yes.
Oh yeah.
Like the most Buxton way to get injured.
It's funny you said that because when Bruntz brought it up a couple weeks ago, I said, "Is there anything more that says Byron Buxton than that?"
Getting run over by a mascot
No,
sausage.
he just would like randomly slam into walls, and it's just like, did you listen, bud? You know the dimensions. Like you're out of real estate. There's a warning track. What do you? Do you not feel the change in surface?
You could like in that video, you could see the kielbasa just kind of bearing down on him, and like you could just see like a 10-day stay on the DL coming, but he got out of the way, so that was good.
All right, MB. The question of the question of the week, which has Caleb Clark in it, but
yes, I think I assume that you'd be asking about him after Tuesday.
Do you know why though? He's the only one of him really on that roster. So it would be nice if if he was good and more than, you know what I mean? So I want him to assume the role. Now, having said that, can I take the good with the bad, right? You got the good clean innings from him early, but now the bullpen is rearing its ugly head from well over the last 8-9 games. How much of the early part of the bullpen was fool's gold versus what it is now? And can they build off what Clark did the other night?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, and it's scary how much of it was like the calendar flipped to April, and then it was like everybody kind of forgot how to throw strikes. Like it's almost like it's just kind of bit everybody now. But yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't say it was fool's gold from what they did for the first 2 months, but I mean, it definitely, you're not able to really count on, one guy that you could kind of go to right now in a pinch. The closest, the that I would say that's kind of been that guy is Jalen Worthley. He's been really good. Over that kind of that stretch where the rest of the bullpen's taken a dive. But I mean, it's, you look at the way that they've lost games on this little stretch here, and it's, walking guys in late innings. I mean, even Perry the other night, he got to 1-2 on both of those guys, and just didn't have the stuff to put them away for the first two batters. So they got to figure that out a little bit. And I don't know if you maybe think of bringing in a different guy in the ninth, or kind of reshaping, who you have out there. But I mean, to your initial question about Clark, if he can be a lefty out of the pen that gives you, let's say, 2 or 3 innings if you need it. I mean, 3 is probably asking a lot, but if you could get 2, that potentially saves you from having to use Walsh on the weekend, and maybe he becomes your midweek guy. So there's kind of that push and pull right now of how you're going to use guys. But yeah, I mean, if they could get him consistent and able to get outs on the weekend, I mean, that'd be huge, because they don't have a ton from the left side that's not Perry or Worthley right now.
Bruntz, what's your level of concern on Perry moving forward? Like, how much would you be able to trust him after a couple of the outings that we've seen?
Yeah, I mean, guys are going to have those kinds of outings, and like I said, the one the other night against Creighton, I mean, he was throwing strikes. Just wasn't able to kind of get the outs. I mean, one of the guys hit one through the shift, and the other guy, I mean, you just kind of tip your cap to it. It was a nice 2-strike hit. So he's going to continue to be there. I mean, I think, the thing that they've liked the most about him in the late innings is he just has confidence. And, I think right now for a team that's kind of struggling, I mean, you need that kind of guy to perform well. So, I think they're going to keep going to him. But like I said, I mean, I don't know if maybe you look at Dice as your ninth inning guy.
He looked good the other night.
He has. And so I don't know. I mean, maybe you kind of look at that, and that's the thing. I mean, they've had a pretty democratic approach to that closing role. And I don't know if maybe you kind of, hone in on one guy to be your ninth inning guy a little more than what they've done to this point.
Let me ask you something, Bruntz, and this is why it's my favorite sport, because I do think it is the most difficult of the true skilled team sports. But I told Ravi I'm kind of over the narrative of, it means more to Creighton and this, that, and the other. I just think, Creighton has been better than Nebraska. Nebraska has not been good in midweek games to begin with. You double down when you see good teams like Creighton midweek. And that's a recipe for what we're getting. But if Bolt got the scenario, hey, you're going to be up a few runs heading into the ninth in a low, grimy game, he wants to play like that. I think he would sign up for that. How much of you're looking at 5 out of 6, you're like, man, this sucks. But and it's baseball, I get it. But if Nebraska could just be better situationally, right? Like understanding a 2-0 count, or a clutch hit when you got a guy on second or moving a guy over with less than an out, or it just seems like the little bugaboo things have spiraled into this 5 out of 6 thing. Is that an excuse, or is that just baseball?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
do you get that sense?
No, I know what you're saying. I mean, I think anecdotally, I think they've been better situationally this year at the plate than what they were last year. Like last year, it felt like they struck out too much. They really failed to move guys. And I think they've been better at it this year. I think they're able to manufacture runs a little bit more. But, I mean, the other night, the wind is just howling out. And, it was just a lot of weak contact.
Mm-hmm.
I was really kind of surprised. I mean, you just had to basically get a ball up into the air, and it was probably going to go out.
Well, we saw it doom them, right?
Yeah, right. And so I think that's, that's the unfortunate part of it, is sometimes the approach, at the plate hasn't been what it needed to be. And, I don't know. I mean, I think, on this recent kind of stretch, I mean, they blew the lead on Friday against Rutgers. They had the lead against Creighton. I mean, I think it's, I kind of tend to say it's a little bit more of, those lulls you go through during the course of the year. It's a little bit unfortunate, timing wise for Nebraska that lull came right on the back end of being in the host conversation and all of a sudden being ranked. So, right now it feels like a team that just needs something good to happen. And I feel like that was probably the most crushing part of that loss the other night was like, you got a chance to win what was a pretty kind of grimy, tough midweek game. You got good performances on the mound from guys that hadn't been very good recently, and that was a positive. And you weren't able to close the deal. So, this is going to be a really important weekend series against Maryland, who's a good team that's kind of in the same spot as Nebraska, where they played well, but maybe some of the results haven't maybe added up with everything. So this is a really important one to kind of get things turned around from a mental point of view for this team.
As much as it pains me to give you a little credit, I have a great memory, and I remember I tried to convince you that the preseason Big Ten rankings were relatively right, and I used Maryland as an example, and you said, well, 3 through 7 is kind of a crapshoot. Maryland's replacing a lot, not to quote you, but to quote you, and Maryland is exactly what you just said. Still got some questions. We thought some things. They just haven't been that team. So tip of the cap, Bruntz. You weren't going to take the bait. You're very, very astute. So that's the last nice thing I'll say until you get off the phone.
Well, and then Iowa too, right? Like Iowa.
Oh yeah, and that was my gimme. And you're like, I don't know what happens after 1 and 2. That's like, oh, here we go.
There's not many Big Ten teams that have the number 16 prospect in the draft pitching on Sundays.
Yep.
So they're hard to wrap your head around a little bit.
Do you feel like they should have a few more dubs? What? I detected. Bruntz, I'm done.
Bruntz, you just saw that D1 baseball has Nebraska projected as a 2 seed, but with how they've played so far in the month of April, how tenuous do you think that position is for them, not just on that 2 line, but in terms of making the tournament in general? I know that the RPI is still good. I know they still have a lot of opportunities, and the Big Ten probably isn't going to hurt them as much as it would some years, but just any sort of indication on your part that spot may not be as solid as Nebraska would hope.
Well, I mean, you got to win more than 1 out of 6. I mean, that
would be helpful.
That's the tenuous part of it. I mean, the RPI is going to be good, so you have a little bit of in terms of like the tournament qualification, you have a little bit of wiggle room there. But I mean, you gotta, you're getting into mid-April. I mean, this is the time when you have to win tough series. Nebraska does have some still has some notable midweek games left. I mean, you have to play Creighton one more time. You've got, I believe, K-State and Kansas both still on the schedule. So there's opportunity there. It's just going to kind of come down to getting it turned around a little bit. And we'll see if Nebraska can do that, but they just got to be, a little bit finer at the plate, a little bit better on the mound. Because I think it is a good team. I think they have the potential to be a good team. It's just that they, we're in the middle of April here, and I still don't think they've played their best baseball either. So, we'll see what they can get done. But I even when there was kind of the conversation about hosting, I mean, it felt like Nebraska was probably going to settle in as a 2 seed somewhere. And I mean, having to go to Terre Haute would be, I think Nebraska would take that as a 2 seed if it were offered right now. I mean, I think that would be a pretty good draw for them.
Bruntz, let me cross over here to football. And after 20 years of being in the desert, what is it about, in your opinion, that makes Coach Rule so assuring that everything's going to be okay?
I think he's got a plan. I think, a plan helps. I think a plan that's worked elsewhere helps.
Do you hear it?
Do I hear the plan?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think you see it, right?
Okay.
Like, you see with the way that they've built this team. They've built it up front, I think, in a better way than what others have done over the last 20 years. To use your time frame there, I mean, I think that helps. I think the way that they're building a roster in a very challenging era to build a roster, I think that gives you some trust. And I don't know. I mean, I think from the way he communicates, I think, he gets it. I think he understands Nebraska well. I think he understands Nebraska's place, in college football right now pretty well. And I don't know. I mean, I just, the reason that you brought him in as a head coach was you wanted somebody that's kind of built things and built things for the long term. And I think you can kind of start to see the pieces falling into place a little bit. I mean, they've got to obviously show up on the field this fall and take a step forward from where they were last year. But I mean, even, for the quarterback issues aside, I mean, I think you could see an improvement in play that, leads you to believe that things are trending in the right direction here going into year two.
Bruntz, kind of going off of that same idea, we heard Rule talk about in his press conference on Tuesday, the transfer portal being open and guys have their right if they want to go in. And I got the sense, and maybe I'm reading too much into it because I kind of decipher that thing.
Yeah, he's a real surface level thinker, Bruntz.
Pretty aggressively. Well, me and my brother both. You've been around the family for a long time. I hear that and I go, he really is just genuinely telling you out loud that I know better than you what's best for you. If you want to leave, that's your right, but it'd be stupid. Like that's what I hear when he says that. Am I crazy?
No, not at all. I mean, it's like a parent talking to their kid. Like, yeah, you could do that, but I don't think you want to do that.
Like legally, you're allowed to,
and make it a good idea.
Yeah. The rules say you're allowed to do that. No, I think that, yeah, and he's said that in different ways too, beyond just this week about, making sure that you kind of got to know, what you got to, if you're going to do it, you got to have a plan. And, there's been some guys from Nebraska that have gone in the portal that, I think have ended up in maybe in better spots than some of that, guys that, maybe weren't Power 5 type guys. And you go down to a mid-major, you're going to play more, it's a better fit. That's great. But I mean, I think that was kind of like beware of what's out there. Like I think Nebraska, more than a lot of other schools, has kind of built their roster and the way they do things to focus more on all, 85 or 95 or however many guys are getting scholarship money right now, versus other places where it probably feels a little bit more top heavy. I mean, I'm sure Nebraska is going to have guys go in the portal, but I mean, I would, hope that it's more guys that are, looking for more playing time and not just doing it to see what's out there. Cause there's so many guys that enter the portal right now, and they might've played their last down of football just because, if you're going in there and you don't know where you're going to end up, that's a pretty scary place to be, I think.
It's interesting, Bruntz, because now we're going through all the, it's like he says one thing and it's like bird crumbs and we're super hungry and we just gobble them all up. But now I'm going through these exercises of the portal. And some of this is due to Nebraska's roster size, right? Some of it is due to the, we saw a couple of recruiting guys yesterday, Link, a couple of DBs out of SMU, one at TCU. And I'm thinking, all right, the portal may have some guys enter it, and you're going to think, they could be decent players. What happened? But it could just be kind of a numbers thing based on the way that he's building this thing. Is that kind of like self-weeding? Is he preemptively preparing us for, hey, listen, I told you kind of my philosophy. It's up to those guys. Don't panic. I got this.
Yeah. No, I mean, and I think when he says, yeah, that's, it's their right to do that. I mean, yeah, guys are going to leave. And
he went, Bruntz, he went as far as to say, I talk to guys, their coaches after they leave. Like, he didn't have to say that. But I wonder, and I'm like, am I reading into this? Like, he'll still care about you when you go. Like, why did he say that?
I don't know. I mean, it's also an opportunity to, get that out there, right? Like that's that's what they're trying to do. And like I told you, I mean, I think they've got the culture within those walls in a pretty good place. At least they think they do. And I mean, that's part of it. Also, is just also saying this is what we do. I mean, it's not. He's not also saying that for just our benefit of like, it's also talking to the players a little bit too of like, this is how we are. This is what it's going to be. And, if you want to be a part of it, fine. If you don't, we're good there too. So, I mean, we'll see what happens, but I would expect that I would be very surprised if anybody left Nebraska that it wasn't like I'm fourth on the depth chart right now. I want to play. I need to go somewhere else kind of a situation. I think if anybody leaves, it's going to be more of those types of things.
Bruntz, as always, you got my noodle turning a little bit here. Unfortunately, we gotta let you go. But so DB gets to bear the brunt of my the brunt of my thoughts here. But Bruntz,
the brunts of your thoughts.
See, see what you did there.
Yeah.
Bruntz, we appreciate you as always. We'll talk to you next week.
Sounds good, guys. Thanks.
Nice. Bruntsy here for Tecate.
A big Tecate guy.
Apparently, Amazing Daniel likes Tecate too.
Yeah, I think I had one like a long time ago.
Does it has the lightning bolt, right? The orange one?
Yeah, I think there's a lightning bolt behind the words.
It's in a red can.
I don't.
I think it's red.
I don't know anything good that's come out of cans with lightning bolts. But hey,
I mean, you drink a lot. I mean, were you not a big Surge guy?
No. And the other one too,
Bolt. Powerade. Did Powerade have a lightning?
The harder Is the lemonade have a bolt? The harder.
Gatorade
lemonade?
has a lightning bolt, doesn't it?
Oh, okay. But I don't drink that anymore either.
No, but it's not bad. You're not a haterade, are you?
No. That would be my partner.
We got more coming up next.
We will be back. 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 You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We're back here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590 ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR in Lincoln. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube on the Pillar Exterior stage. And I got to remind you, got to go out to see our friends at Warhorse Sportsbook. Whether you're in Lincoln and go to the casino or you're in Omaha, you can go to Horseman's Park. Make sure you check out Warhorse Sportsbook. It's the best place in Nebraska to place your sports bets. We got NBA going up here with the playoffs. We got NHL, which we're going to talk about next segment as well. At Warhorse, you can bet on nearly every major sporting event, and you can do so in a variety of ways. Straight bets, live bets, parlays, props, whatever you can think of, they can likely accommodate you. Make sure you go to warhorsecasino.com/sportsbook to get a full list of details and house rules. That's Warhorse Sportsbook. No bets, no glory. So Bruntz said something there at the end that kind of got the noodle turning a little bit.
Why do you let me follow up smart people?
What do you mean?
If you got the idea from Bruntz, why are you going to defer to me?
Because I think you're smart too.
Oh, geez.
Look at that. See, I'm nice sometimes. Did you see that?
That was a total. Yeah, I'm not buying it. I think you're setting me up here.
No, so
and that transactional relationship thing that you love so much.
Don't get me started.
Not to go back to Deion.
Don't get me started.
Dude, he's got another top 40 linebacker. He played 10 games. Kennedy's in the portal.
Imagine
now.
my surprise.
He re-enters the portal.
Imagine my surprise that people don't want to play for Deion. Huh? Weird. You see what he's about. You're like, oh no, I'm good here. Peace.
It was Mike's Harder that has the lemon, the
lightning bolt.
So for those of you out there, we're just finding
drinks with lightning bolts.
Random bad drinks with lightning bolts.
Not all of them are bad. Gatorade's good. I like Gatorade.
I like Gatorade.
I like
too.
Turtles.
I don't know how great it is.
That's
for
fine.
You, but
good
they
for
have
you.
They have made zero and the electrolytes.
See, I go zero because I don't want to sugar.
Just drink salt water.
I don't want to do that. That's
there's
gross.
a Bolt beer, BOLT. It's got the
Bolt
flash on it. Yep, Bolt beer.
Cool.
telling you, it's a thing.
It is a
outside of Gatorade.
It is a high indicator that you might have a bad beverage on your hands. It's not a direct correlation, but high chance there.
I didn't know they made hard and harder lemonade.
Yeah, there's more alcohol in the harder. That stuff will give you a stomach ache just from the sugar. It gets a little sugary.
Like the movie A River Runs Through You?
No.
What?
No.
Is that
Stop
Reese?
it.
My bad. Dang, I just got my wrist slapped. All right, back to Bruntz.
Well, so he's talking about how Coach Rule says, I brought up hey, it's your right to go in the portal. And then he kind of follows it up with, once you play for me, you always play for me. And I talk to guys' coaches, and I still I ask them how they're doing. And I still talk to guys after they leave. Is it possible?
No, wait, real quick.
Yeah.
Did you think of that before I just said it to Bruntz? Because when he said it, I was like, why would he say that?
I thought about it, but in a different way than I did when you said it again.
Okay.
So I was
because now I'm just looking for like the setups now because he's always a couple of steps ahead.
So that's why I'm trying to galaxy brain this thing, and I might be wrong.
Okay.
All right, but we're going to give it a shot. Is it possible? Because we are going to have a roster situation here at some point where people are going to be leaving. Maybe a couple people will come in, but you're going to have more guys leave than come here, right? Like that's just the numbers game. Is it possible he's created such a situation that guys don't want to leave that he has to tell them, whether in person or through the media, hey, I'm still going to love you when you're gone?
Maybe.
Where it's
that would be so him, though, like to prepare for.
Yes.
To prepare for that.
Because there's going to be some guys that he knows, and they probably know deep down aren't going to be able to crack the depth chart in a way that is going to get the meaningful playing time, right?
Because what he does for me, he makes it seem like, and maybe it just is that way, which is why I've been harping on this trust thing and how much do we trust for 2 months. Like I just didn't get out of the rack and was like, yeah, man, I'm just going to pick at this. Like he's kind of set this thing up based on what he says, how he acts, how he recruits. Okay, hey, listen, stop getting so high and so low. Just chill. I got this. Remember, he gives us the portal talk. He breaks down sequentially the seasons of training. He says it's not just about quarterback play. He's like the great it's like the great democracy of who can make a video. It's, hey, in nothing but alphabetical order. Like he sets this thing like, hey, you guys can read into this if you want, but what I'm telling you is it's going to be fine. Remember, he's the guy that said out loud, even if T-Dub leaves, we've always played good defense. We'll play good defense. You're like, wait, is White leaving? Are you really leaving? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Everything he said, it's like, shh, chill.
It's gonna be all right. You just gotta trust me. It's gonna be all right.
Why would he say he talks? Hey, players have left. I talked to their coaches. Hey, how's Tim doing? Is he doing all right since he's left my program? I still care about that guy.
Yeah, so I think there's.
I just said Tim. Shane, if you don't stop breathing into that microphone, I'm going to come down.
Have you guys mentioned Joe Cola, by the way?
We're not talking about that anymore, Shane. Turn your microphone off.
I got to bring Joe Cola up because that was a bad drink. That was a.
He hasn't changed in 15 years.
Drink.
Dude, you stay on delay.
You got to stop breathing in the microphone, man.
You want me to just like stop breathing? Just like not.
Turn the microphone off. Turn the microphone off.
Joe Cola, I said that.
Oh,
that's to answer your question.
You know how many days I leave here with a headache from laughing? Well, like, Shane, first of all, never mind.
So I got to hold my breath when I talk.
Oh Lord.
No, you just leave the microphone off. You're fine.
Joe
that's
Cola. I've said that. I've said that like 3 times. Joe Cola.
All right, man. I'm gonna look it up. Are you cool?
You got to stop, bro. You have to stop.
That's not me. I think that's you.
No, it's really not, because it goes away when you turn your mic off. It's incredible. You good?
Yeah.
DB, you good?
He's so. Okay.
All right, so
why did he say it 3 times?
I don't know. We had actually moved past that point of the conversation.
Sorry about that.
I mean, since we're going to derail.
Oh, come on, Shane.
Steven sends.
Why do you so?
Steven sends in a lightning bolt drink from Steven Seagal, so that's cool. See, it's like an Asian energy drink.
I mean, are you sure?
I mean, there's lettering on there that appears to be Asian in origin.
Are you sure it's not just pie?
Yeah, that's not the pie. That's not the symbol for pie.
My bad.
That appears to be some kind of lettering. I'm guessing. I'm not fluent in Mandarin. Although my dad my dad does know Cantonese. I don't.
Does he have any cashmere chili? That's all I care about.
I
Really.
texted him. He's a worse texter than you are, but he's pushing 80, so he has an excuse.
Were you offended that I asked for an Indian spice?
No, I mean, I was offended more than I was like, bro, I don't cook.
Oh, okay.
I mean, who else in your life would have an Indian spice?
Well, I just didn't want to have to go to the store.
Yeah, I don't know. He may not respond back to me. Sometimes it takes a couple days.
Can't you just call him?
I mean, not while we're on the air here, bud. You're the only one here that makes phone calls in between breaks.
I answer. I typically don't make
that's
them.
That's not true.
Depends on if I have to know right now.
Yeah, that's fair. When you got to know now, you got to.
Oh man, I'm so done with you.
What did
I
do?
say that once a day.
You say it like 8 times a day.
All right, well,
at least you said it like 3 times in the first segment.
Jolt Cola, that's what it is. Jolt Cola.
And you're still
I'm
here.
trying to get up to 8. Good morning.
You in a good mood or what?
I'm always in a good mood.
You seem very hurt right now. You gonna be all right?
No, I don't think it's prudent. It's a little. Maybe it sounds a little Pollyannish.
I seriously, I had to look it up.
It's the lowlights.
I don't know what that means, Coach.
Man,
I got a pretty
I don't
good.
know that I can answer that.
I got pretty good vocab. I don't know what that means.
It's the ability to string it together in a timely manner.
Yeah, no,
a lot of
question.
I looked it up. I got it.
A lot of people know words. They just don't
know what they mean.
Yeah, or
or they know sodas or
timing.
We'll need those guys to play well. We'll need the other guys.
Timing, Shane. You're listening to the conversation at all? Timing.
So you know what's funny was that as I talk about recruiting?
What's that?
You know who's the guy that he likes? Well, he's kind of had this. Oh man, this. We call that a tease, I guess.
This is your fault. We got to talk hockey now.
That's okay.
If you would have just let me get the Jolt Cola right away, we could have moved on from it. I tried to move on from it. You guys wouldn't move. You just kept on going at it.
If you were capable of getting to Jolt Cola right away, we might have a different conversation here.
Exactly. If you guys would have just got to it.
It's all right.
I mean, I didn't want to bring it up several times, but
I don't think that
happens.
I love hockey.
We're going to talk to Dan Rosen coming up next to NHL.com. Talk a little hockey here on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Center point Radish. Right circle Kucherov in front point.
Score! There it is! 100 assists! Nikita Kucherov!
Russ for Crosby, scanning, drifting behind the goal. Center pass, Bunting chops it on that, it's loose. Right there, Crosby scores! And the Penguins do have a 1-0 lead.
It gets louder here at Madison Square Garden as the Rangers clinch the President's Trophy with the best record during the National Hockey League regular season in 2023-24.
Wrapping up the show here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590 ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR in Lincoln, live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here at the Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. We're on the Pillar Exterior stage. We welcome in Dan Rosen of NHL.com. Dan, how are you this morning?
I'm good. How you doing?
Good. Dan, we know that the East was late in getting set, and partly due to my Penguins not holding up their end of the deal. But level of surprise that the odds favorite will not reside in the Western Conference this year.
The favorite is not in the West.
Yes. Because I think Carolina has the best odds right now, right?
I don't know. I haven't looked at the odds, to be honest with you, but I think the favorite is in the West. I think the Dallas Stars, they're the team that I would pick right now to be Stanley Cup. They've got depth, they've got goaltending, they've got size, experience. They've built their team the right way. They're a perfect example of a team actually that did not need to, for lack of a better word, tank in order to get better. They just consistently stayed better. And continued to infuse young talent into the lineup. Jason Robertson's an example. Lately, now it's Wyatt Johnson and Thomas Harley. So I actually like the Dallas Stars a lot, to be honest with you. And at the start of the season, I picked the Carolina Hurricanes to represent the East in the Stanley Cup final. I actually picked Carolina with Dallas winning, so I'm sticking with that Dallas pick. And I don't think I'm going to amend it. I think I'll stick with it, but I'm not 100% sold. The Rangers have really impressed me with the way that they've just consistently done it this year. And the Florida Panthers, when healthy, might very well be the best team in the National Hockey League.
That's interesting because you're right on. In the West, it's 8.5 to 1 with Dallas and Colorado. But in the East, the Panthers are 7.5 to 1, but Carolina's 7 to 1 right there. I mean, those are some top-heavy teams, but how did the Rangers avoid the first round upset like a year ago, considering that roster depth?
Well, last year, you got to remember when the Rangers played the Devils last year, they were technically the underdogs because Devils had a better season. It was slim, but they didn't have the experience that the Rangers had. And I think what the Rangers went through last year was a team that just didn't have an identity. Last season, they did not have an identity. This season, they do. They are hard. They compete. And through trades at the deadline, getting guys like Alex Wenberg, a third-line center, and Jack Roslovic, who's been playing top-line right wing with Mika Zibanejad and Chris Kreider, they got a lot faster, too. But their biggest identity right now is they compete, and that's exactly what Peter Laviolette instilled and said we were going to work. And it's easy to say, but the teams that do succeed in the National Hockey League, and everybody's competitive, but it's when it gets down to the nitty-gritty, it's that battle for a puck in the corner when you have to win it. The Rangers have consistently been winning battles all over the ice. That is an identity for them right now. They did not have it last year, and I don't think they play Washington in the first round, and Washington was a seller at the trade deadline. Mm-hmm. They got in the playoffs in a turtle race at the bottom of the Eastern Conference. I don't think Washington, to be honest, I just don't think Washington stands much of a chance. The way the Capitals have to win that series is they've got to keep it low event and low scoring, but the Rangers are a high event, high scoring team.
We're talking with Dan Rosen, NHL.com. Dan, is there anybody, you described this ability to battle and fight. Is there anybody that's maybe not one of the headliners in either conference that you see that quality in that you think could make things interesting?
Well, I mean, look, the team that I immediately comes to mind is the Winnipeg Jets.
I agree.
Small market team. Like, they're not a headliner type team because they don't, like, Nathan McKinnon makes the Avalanche a headliner team, right? Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl do that for the Oilers. I mentioned what I really liked about Dallas. Vegas won the Stanley Cup. They're obviously a headliner team, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the Winnipeg Jets aren't, but the Winnipeg Jets are the best 5-on-5 defending team in the National Hockey League. They have arguably the best goalie. I think they do have the best goalie this season. It's Connor Hellebuck. They are going to be nightmare fuel for the Colorado Avalanche.
Mm.
When they play Colorado, they tend to put a blanket over Nathan McKinnon, and they do a really good job of it. And they say, we're going to stop that guy. You got to beat us with your other guys. And I don't think the Avalanche have the other guys right now without McKinnon driving the bus for them to do that. And the Winnipeg Jets are going to try to shut him down. They're not going to be able to shut him down for 7 games. It's just impossible. He's that good. But they don't have to shut him down for 7 games. They've got to shut him down for 4. And if they do that, they'll win the series.
Dan, you're picking the East. They open with a toughie, a team that they split the regular season series with in the Isles, who can skate. When you look at hockey and these matchups and stylistically, you just reference the difference between the Rangers and their first-round opponent. Why is it that hockey is one of the few sports where people out loud say, hey, listen, in the postseason, it's officiated like this. It is different than in the regular season, and it is universally accepted like, hey, that's just the way it is. What is it that's different about playoff hockey and saying those things out loud?
Well, I actually think we say it and we talk about it, but I don't know that it's necessarily true anymore, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I'm pretty sure the number of penalties and the number of penalty minutes and power play time in the playoffs last year was pretty close to what it was in the regular season on average. So I think the game is being called in the playoffs. The penalties are being called. As the game wears on, as it gets to the third period, I think it becomes a little bit more gets let go. The difference is the game. Hockey's a game where as the stakes get higher, the intensity gets higher. And players know that through the course of an 82-game season, and it's the grind, I think it's the hardest season in sports because of how many games you play, yes, the travel, but the wear and tear on your body to play these games. It's unlike anywhere else. Like football is football. It's different, but they only play 17 games, right? I mean, so it's and each game is like a car crash so I understand that. The grind of the hockey season, guys know, it's not that they take nights off. It's that they just know I don't have it 100% in my tank to do exactly what I need to do all the time. And that's why you see slumps. And it's why, there's parity in the league. I think the parity is great. In the playoffs, it's less practice, less thinking about what to do, and it's just go, go, go. And the intensity gets ratcheted up, and you'll see it Saturday. You'll see it. It's going to be completely different from what we see tonight in the National Hockey League. And it's just the nature of the game. And the penalties, I think, are called, and I think the game is called well. But the nature of the athlete, the nature of the game, the intensity ratchets it up, and the energy just gets so much higher in the building. If you're in the building for a Stanley Cup playoff game, it's just different than it is in the regular season. And players, they get fuel off of that.
Dan, you mentioned Dallas as the team that you really like coming out of this thing as the favorite. But if for whatever reason they do trip up, where do you see some potential flaws that could be exposed?
For the Dallas Stars, potential flaws, I don't think they have many. Potentially, I don't want to say this because I like the guy a lot, and I think he's really good in net, Jake Ottinger, but he was struggling this season for a while. He picked his game up here in the last quarter of the season, but there was a struggle for Jake Ottinger, and he would admit that too. And if he goes back to having a little bit of a struggle, it's going to be really hard for them. And if you're able to, I'll say, force the Dallas Stars to have to beat you with Jamie Benn and their third line, you're doing a good job. They can still beat you with that line. That's what I mean by their depth. But if you're able to limit Jason Robertson and Rope Hintz and Joe Pavelski and that line in particular, then you've got a shot to beat the Dallas Stars. But that's what I said. I think their depth is so good. Their defense is strong. They added Chris Tanev at the trade deadline. Not a headline type guy, but a really good, snarly type defenseman who moves the puck really well too, is an underrated puck mover. I think that they've got pretty much everything going on for them right now.
A classic old school series with Boston and Toronto. Their postseason familiarity is unprecedented. But Boston owned them in the regular season 4-0. Toronto's tried everything. They shook up management. They've made moves. Is this series any sort of indictment on how you feel about Austin Matthews? Because it's almost like they've tried everything to make sure that he can still be the guy, but it seems like there's a lot of pressure on Marner and Matthews.
Well, I mean, it's Toronto, so there's going to be a lot of pressure on them. There's no question about it, and they've got to deliver, right? I mean, they finally win a playoff round last year, and then they get smoked in the second round, and everybody forgets that they won a playoff round for the first time since 2004 because they got smoked in the second round. It wasn't good enough. Nothing's going to be good enough until they win the Stanley Cup, right? I mean, it's just obvious that way. I like the Leafs in this series, to be honest with you, and it's against the grain, and I know it, but I don't see how the Bruins match up down the middle. Matthews and Tavares, and you can throw Marner in the mix there if you want. Nylander too.
He's playing 98 points for Nylander.
Yeah. Oh, he's been terrific all season. The high-end talent for the Leafs is better than the high-end talent for the Bruins. And if they can get it going, and if Matthews can keep it going, I like them. The goaltending's a different situation, but I believe in a 7-game series they can get enough. They can score enough to win. They've got to, or else there's going to be some changes there in Toronto, and it probably would start with the head coach.
It's Dan Rosen
Fantastic
from
stuff,
NHL.com. Dan, we appreciate you, and hopefully we'll catch up again soon.
Thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate it.
That was Dan Rosen from NHL.com. It was also Damon's dessert for putting up with the everything I put him through every day. That was a little treat I gave for him there. We'll be back tomorrow.
Thank you.
See you. Have a good day. Love you.